Fun times in Cleveland again.
Still Cleveland.
Come on down to Cleveland town, everyone. Under construction since 1868. See our river that catches on fire. It's so polluted that all our fish have AIDS. We see the sun almost 3 times a year. This guy has at least 2 DUIs. The flats look like a Scooby-Doo ghost town. Don't slow down in East Cleveland or you'll die. Our economy's based on LeBron James. Buy a house for the price of a VCR. Our main export is crippling depression. We're so retarded that we think this is art. It could be worse though, at least we're not Detroit. We're not Detroit.
Welcome to the Friends of Fantasy Benefits Baseball Podcast. We are not Detroit, though we kind of are. We enjoyed talking with Michael Govier so much. We're bringing him back. We're rolling it back another week with our good friend Michael Govier of the Enrico Palazzo Podcast, Fantrax, Roto Fanatic. Am I forgetting anything, Mike?
I don't know. I'm sure there's something you're forgetting. I do a football podcast. I do a mental health podcast. I do a movie podcast. I do a podcast where I just talk to 2 douchebags. I do the Palazzo podcast.
Oh, like this one.
Yeah.
Wait.
Yeah. Just like this one. Just like this one. Yeah, you can catch it all. MJ Govier on Twitter. MJ Govier. G-O-V is in Victor. I-E-R. DM me. Hit me up. If you got anything going on that you want to talk about, whether it's fantasy football, fantasy baseball, mental health stuff. I'm recovery from opioids myself, so if you're in crisis and you need someone to talk to, I'm not a professional technically yet. I'm still working on my master's, but I do have 2 ears and I have a mouth. Although you won't hear my mouth because I'll type the words. Although we could talk on the phone. Point being is I'm open. Hit me up if you need someone to talk to. And if you just want to talk about pointless nonsense, you could try that too. I might respond. I'm known as a bozo. I'm kind of a bozo dude. So that's the story here, Justin. It's good to be back on the show. Monday Night Raw.
I know. I feel like this needs to turn into a regular segment or something. Of course, joining us as well is Dave Mcdonald. He's not Detroit. He's from Cleveland. The reason why we have that song. Dave, how you doing, my friend?
I'm great, man. Yeah, definitely not Detroit. I was curious if we were going to get muted like last time, if the copyright thing's going on.
It only mutes the music part on Facebook.
Oh, okay.
That's what it is. Otherwise, we're okay. We
that
may
stuff's
get
out of
sued.
control, man.
Yeah, we may get sued for copyright infringement at some point. But
my girlfriend made a great video. She sells nails online for this thing called Color Street. If you want nails, hit up my girlfriend Leanne. She loves it. But she made a video that was like 40 seconds long on Canva, and she put it on Facebook, and they muted it. But it wasn't even copyrighted music. It was very disappointing. They need to be a little less stingy with the muting.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, I got a temporary ban on Twitter once for using the Sarah McLachlan song.
Wow.
Will You Remember Me one? I'm not going to sing it.
No, please, God, no.
Yeah, that's
I will remember. Yeah, that one.
I was on vacation.
Really?
Yeah, I was on vacation, and all of a sudden I start getting emails like, "You have been temporarily banned." I'm like, "Well, I'm on vacation, so it's not a huge deal." But for what? And like they showed me the tweet. I'm like, I think I put like the Sarah McLachlan music behind something. I can't even remember what it was. But it was something from like months previously. I don't know.
Definitely not worth getting banned for, nor worth using at all, really, if we're being honest. But yeah.
But we are gonna talk about some baseball stuff. We brought Michael back just because there were so many moves over the kind of right before the ending that we couldn't even get
the darkness
into. Yeah, now we've got a dark period where we're not going to be able to talk about any moves for a little
Silence. In fact, we should all have empty faces, right? We should have all of our faces looking like every MLB player's current Twitter bio.
Oh, I wish I could do that. I don't know. I'm not that good at
baseball.
But so before we jump into kind of our first topic of the night, I want to ask you guys, how scared are you that we might miss some baseball this year because of this work stoppage?
I am not scared at all because I know we're going to miss some time, and I always said so most of the year. If you ever listen to me on the Palazzo Podcast, 2 L's, 2 Z's, follow us on Twitter at Palazzo Podcast, 2 L's, 2 Z's. I was talking about this all year long. Not that I'm a prognosticator. I've made a lot of mistakes. In fact, I think I started Matt Breida in a DFS lineup tonight, and he has like negative points. So I don't know everything. However, this just was coming. It was always coming. It's tension that has built up for many, many years with all of the different variables at play with the minor leagues and the limitations and preventing players from getting up sooner than they should. The contracts that suck. They've actually, people talked about Corey Seager making $325 million over 10 years, the contract that he got from the Rangers. But A-Rod signed a 10-year, I believe it was 10. It was at least $250 million for sure. And that was back in 2003. So if you look at it, the contracts are actually less worth now, even the big ones. And I know that doesn't mean shit to the regular person on the street because we don't make that kind of money, but it does matter in terms of the balance of the game. So I've expected this for a long time. I'm not scared because I've expected that this probably won't get done on time and there will be a delay to the start of the year.
I mean, I do feel like it's going to happen, but I am a little scared too. I mean, you know, the owners and the players, we're kind of used to this shit from them. And it's really difficult for people to relate to millionaires fighting with billionaires over kind of this bullshit. Like, I really hope that they don't let it interfere with the season at all. But I think if it does, it'll be minimal. That's my hope anyways. I mean, if it's like 1994 and we don't even have a World Series, that'll be terrible. Although my reason for thinking it won't be that won't be the case is because in 94, the Indians were the World Series favorites. So therefore there was no World Series this year.
Formerly the Indians.
This year, the Guardians have zero chance. So I'm sure there'll be a season.
I see what you're doing. Okay. I got it.
Yep.
There's been some questions on Twitter about your camera and whether or not you are stripping live on camera, Dave, and that's why it keeps kind of fogging over.
Oh God. Definitely yes, I am stripping, and that is what's happening here.
All right. Well, let's move on and talk about the Tigers, and I'll let you lead the ship for a little bit there, Dave.
Yeah. All right. So, Michael, as the resident Tigers bozo, I kind of wanted to talk to you. When I originally wrote the show notes, this was back before free agent Palooza, when we had literally 50 news items that we had to get all at one time. So at the time, a couple weeks ago, the Tigers were one of the more active teams in the offseason so far. They signed Javi Baez, they signed Erod, they traded for Barnhart, which, granted not a huge move, but solidifying catcher with a guy who can frame and pretty solid defensively. Did you see this coming? Like, did you see the Tigers being this aggressive in the offseason? Are you thinking that they're ready to make their move in the Central?
Well, I did not expect it to be as hardy. The moves they've made that surprised me was the Rodriguez deal. That's what's surprising. Also modest though, $77 million. So that
not bad
led me to when they made that deal, which was after the Barnhart trade. The Barnhart trade, I was just like, who cares? I could care less. For some reason, it doesn't excite me in any way, but I do realize that he's a rock solid real life catcher. He's a Gold Glove winner, and he had to go though because Tyler Stevenson era is beginning in Cincinnati, which I'm very excited about from a fantasy perspective. But from a non-fantasy perspective, Barnhart is going to be somebody who can really help this staff. That's exciting. Doesn't cost anything.
Justin's not excited at all about the Tyler Stevenson era starting, by the way.
Oh, that's a lie.
I've been excited for years on Tyler Stevenson. So
well, let me join you. I've been there too.
Everybody else is jumping on the bandwagon. Yeah, I love Tyler Stevenson. Have since I saw him at First Pitch Arizona in 2019.
Ooh,
full on sarcasm because he is a Tyler Stevenson stan. So yeah,
yeah.
I've not yet drafted him this year. But,
that's. I mean,
well,
if they have a DH, he becomes immediately like a pretty damn good pick.
Yeah. So are you you're gonna be like Simeone going forward? We're gonna know you as the Tyler Stevenson guy. Is that the thing?
I mean, there's always guys that I'm attached to. Usually, they don't pan out very well. So.
I mean, you're known right now as the Cedric Mullins guy, which is a good thing to be known as.
But before that, I was the Chris Stratton guy.
Ew.
Yeah. See. So, I mean...
I won my title in 2014 versus my good friend Mike Ring. Mike, if you're out there, I love you. Good to see you this weekend. We watched Michigan beat Iowa Big Ten champs. Woo! We saw each other in person. That's cool. I beat Mike on the last day of the season. We were roommates. We lived together, and we watched the final day of the games. And, that was the first year, I believe, where they put all the games at the same time like they do now. Mm-hmm. And Chris Stratton came on, and he decided to start him that day. This is way back when he was with the Giants, right? When he came up with the Giants, which you are a fan of as well. Not really. You're kind of you're a Giants fan, but you're also you're a Giants fan, but you're a DC football fan, right? That's
yes. Anyways, Giants are the only San Francisco based team I root for. Otherwise, it's
okay. Well, none of this matters. What does matter is we sat there that day, watched Chris Stratton give up a whip on a couple of runs. Wasn't that bad, but the whip went just over his, and I won a title, and I was very happy about it. It's just a memorable moment when Chris Shatton, I was going to say he shit the bed. Chris Shatton the bed. Thanks you very much for that title in 2014. Now they're way off where we were supposed to be, Dave. The bottom line here
I don't have a segue to get to where we wanted to be, but how do you feel about the Baez? Forget the Barnhart trade. How do you feel about the Baez and the Erod signing? I mean, do you think that this is going to allow them to truly compete, or are they still, I mean, obviously they're not done yet, so we have to see the full picture, but are they a contender in a pretty weak AL North or goddamn Central?
Dave's favorite team is in the AL Central. He called it the AL North. That's awesome. We should start calling it the AL North going forward. I kind of like it. I like it too. Yeah.
My head is
Twins
still
are definitely in the North
mode right now. I know. Sorry about that. But yeah, AL Central. Do you think that the Tigers can really compete right now, or are they still a little lagging behind the White Sox and the others there?
Well, now that you're in focus, I can hear you clearly. And I must say, the signing of Rodriguez gave me an inkling that something cool could happen. Yes, thank you. Something cool might happen. But I told Phil Goyette on the Palazzo podcast last week, we do a weekly prospect show, which you guys can catch. It's only a half hour less. It's a Palazzo podcast prospects power half hour. It's a lot of fun.
I was there.
Oh, you were there? Yeah, you were there the last one. That's true. But the week before that, I told them they wouldn't sign Correa because they wouldn't pony up that much money. They're not going to spend $300 million, $400 million.
I would much rather have Baez for what you got him for than Correa for that much.
I completely agree, and I actually made this argument to Sporer on the Sleeper and the Bus, where because he was all like, "Oh, I wanted Correa." I'm like, I'd much rather have Baez at that price.
Correa is going to. Oh my god. It's going to be
honest. I think Baez is the better player, anyways.
But I mean, he's also healthy. I mean, Correa,
and that's why
he'll stay healthy at any point in his career. Like it's going to be a horrendous contract in like 2 years.
And that's exactly why you got it for less years, less money, and Baez has been healthy like his entire career, and Correa is not. I think this was a coup for the Tigers.
Agree.
Ooh, a classic Russian coup. That's awesome. Mm-hmm. Well, I told Phil that they would not spend that money on Correa because I know the Tigers enough to know that. But the Baez deal surprised me because they gave him 6 years, which apparently is one of the reasons he signed because they were willing to go a little bit longer with him. But there is an opt-out after 2 years, which makes me very, very happy. So I'm cool with this. I am totally cool with this, especially with that opt-out. If he kicks butt for 2 years and opts out, that'll be fine because that'll take us to another level as well. So I like how they set themselves up here, and I think they've learned a lot from the Miggy deal from the past and some of the other deals that they balked at as well. They could have had Max Scherzer back, but they lowballed him as well. So this is pretty much textbook Tigers contract deals, and even though Baez is kind of a bogus fantasy player, I know he can hit home runs. He can hit home runs, but he strikes out a ton. We all know this.
He stole 24 bases last year, too.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, I apologize. You're right. He definitely is a 20-20 guy at minimum. He could be a 30-30 guy. Who knows? And, right-handed hitters do actually hit home runs at Comerica. Don't be fooled by any myths or any old stories you may have heard about. You can't hit home runs. There's no power at the Copa. That's just not true. So I like it. I think it's cool. In a real-life scenario, I'm excited. I was actually less excited when they did the deal because I was thinking from a fantasy lens. And then I got out of my fantasy lens and said, whoa. In real life, this is a solid deal, and he's a good player, so this is good.
Well, I think it's interesting because they're kind of an intersection where they've started to add pieces to their roster, in addition to with bringing up their top prospects at a time where it could all kind of coalesce at the same point. Like they added Grossman last year, and they've got Akil Baddoo, who kind of came out of nowhere last year to look like a legitimate potential piece of that lineup. They have, Jonathan Scope and Hamer Candelario and Miguel Cabrera. They just added Javi Baez. And then they've also got guys like Spencer Torkelson and Riley Green coming up on the offensive side. When do you think we'll see those two guys coming up? Do you expect them to have a chance to start with the team, or do you think that we're going to see them come up in the first couple months or maybe a little later?
Yeah, you'll be waiting on Torque. Phil Goyette, my fellow prospects pal at Palazzo Podcast and Rotofanatic, also agrees, and he knows prospects pretty well. We're not expecting Torque till later in the year, mid-season. June could happen for sure, but not right away. I actually think Riley Green might come up maybe before him, which would be wild. If Riley Green has a really good spring training, because they need an outfielder. I don't think they need Torkelstead as desperately as they might need Green, especially since Riley Green plays center. It's a shot in the dark. It's a little more risky. I admit that. I know I'm kind of going on a limb with that comment, but it wouldn't surprise me if they liked Green and got him up first. But I expect Torque to not come up till May or June.
So for what it's worth, and at this point in the offseason, roster resource, great in-season tool, kind of inaccurate in the offseason. They do, for what it's worth, have Spencer Torkelson up as the starting first baseman for the Detroit Tigers heading into the season, which seemed aggressive to me, which is one of the reasons that I wanted to bring it up with you, and obviously, through you, Phil, to hear kind of whether you agreed with that assessment. So it definitely sounds like you don't see him as that's a legitimate possibility.
No way we have to realize we're in a lockout right now, and there will be a new CBA. So if things change, then that's a different story. If there's new rules and limitations are reduced with service time, then forget it. That is a whole new ball game, and we have a chance to see him opening day. That is very real, but I don't know that at this time, so I can't tell you.
Fair enough. So we kind of mentioned how the lineup is coming along. But at the same time, the rotation is also starting to come into focus a bit as well. Obviously you signed Erod, but you've also brought up Casey Mize, Tarek Skubal, and Matt Manning all last year and even a little bit in 2020 as well. And I mean, personally, I'm a big Skubal fan. I think that guy has, legit ace stuff. He just needs to be able to get that length in. And we all know, Casey Mize, former number 1 overall pick. I think he's a couple adjustments away from really tapping into his potential as well. Are you excited for these guys coming into the year? Like, do you think that these guys are going to take that next step forward, or do you think they need a little bit more time to come together?
This will be a wild year, Dave. I think this is a year where there could be that in-between time.
Yeah.
Like, they jumped up. They're making progress. Mize, ERA under 4, looks like he really has it. He's very, very close, like you said. He's so close to being, I think, a number 1. I really still think he can be. And Skubal took I do. Yeah. I mean, he was given, if it's not injuries, Mize came into this game with all the talent and all the tools. So if injuries don't slow him, I know the splitter is always a source of controversy. In fact, we talked about splitters last time I was on the show, so let's not do that again. But Skubal's the one who made the biggest jump last year over Mize, even though Mize finished with a better ERA. Don't be fooled by that. Skubal's dominance at times was very, very clear. For people who like to say, I prefer the eye test, there's always that story where people who love analytics, they dive into the data. But when you see a pitcher in real time and you watch them perform, there were stretches where Skubal was the most dominant. And Matt Manning is trash. I don't know what. He's got a long way to go. He's not trash. I'm sorry.
He's so young. People are giving up on him. This is like the conversation we had in the Battle of the Podcast chat today, where people are all like, who is the pitcher for Texas that people are burying?
Spencer Howard?
Spencer Howard. Dane Dunning? Oh, Howard.
Okay. No, Spencer Howard. We're talking, and because someone was mentioning the fact that he's going super late. And I said, the fantasy community as a whole buries these guys if they don't have a good first, run.
Immediately. Right.
Yeah. Yep. And I mean, pitching is hard, man. Like,
it is.
Do I think Manning is a future stud? Not necessarily, but I think, he's still way too young to kind of bury him.
Yeah. Not a guy I'm
control guy.
Not a guy I'm looking at for 2022, but or 2021. Yeah. But maybe he can make an adjustment this year that he can then become a possibility for 2023. So definitely not burying him, but he's definitely not a lock to stay in the rotation as well.
I think that's fair. I think they're going to sign somebody once all this ends. There's several free agents and veteran guys. I don't know. Think like a Mike Minor type deal or somebody like that who's going to come in and could play a 1-year deal here and be innings eater galore.
I agree. I don't know that they have another big big buy left in them, but I definitely see them. I mean, it's clear that they're going for it. So I think that they're going to add a couple extra pieces here that we can use for them right here. We got True. I like Manning for the future. There you go.
Well, Manning's never going to be a strikeout guy, by the way. Yes, today's future. I like that. Yes, today's future. That's a wild handle. It's got me thinking. Whoa, dude. Yes, today's future. Anyways, yesterday's future.
Mize
Manning will never dominate.
Guy either.
Right.
I don't think that's. I mean he'll be more than Manning will.
He's never displayed it. I mean, if he develops his stuff to go for more swings and misses, it's a possibility. But right now, he doesn't have. Okay. Well,
he will, Justin. I mean, he has the pitches. He has the arsenal to make hitters miss. It's a matter of a few adjustments, and maybe his pitch selection, his pitch mix needs to be adjusted. I would agree with that, but I certainly think Mize is a guy who should have a K9 of at least 9 when he's starting to hit the prime of his career. I really do, at least.
Okay, but I mean, that's still not like elite or anything by any stretch of the imagination.
No, 9's not. You're right. Yeah.
So
I'm saying at least though.
Because I mean, this year it was like 7, right?
Yeah, it was definitely not 9.
So he could be like a Nate Eovaldi, who he kind of has the stuff, but it took him. You know, Eovaldi came in the league in 2011. It took him until 2018 to get to an 8+ K per 9, and then 2019 9+ K per 9. So, you know, Casey Mize could be on that track where it takes him a few years to kind of find that out pitch that he can use to get the strikeout with. But he does have the. You're right. He does have the stuff to do that.
Eovaldi's pitches throws 97 though. Like, let's not compare the two. Like these are like two completely different pitchers.
Oh, well, that hurts my feelings. Dave, don't get upset about it. It's okay.
Yeah, no. So Mize, I remembered he used to throw, I thought 95, but it looks like he's only around 94 in the majors. Yeah. So, yeah, he does not have that fastball for sure. But we'll see.
He doesn't. But Mize's K9, even in the minors, has always surprised me. I just thought that his breaking stuff should be better, and he's not. Maybe it's not as good as I think it is. Maybe I need to reevaluate and go deep into the dungeon, sit down and look at some of his stuff recently from 2021.
He never had a K9 of 9.
Yeah, right. I know.
Minors. I mean, like, now, do I think that does that mean he can't be like a really good major league pitcher or like a really good fantasy pitcher? No, I think you can, but you have to be elite in terms of your home run suppression, in terms of not walking guys. You know, it's a much harder line to walk. For a guy like Mize as opposed to a guy who can overpower you. That doesn't mean I dislike Mize, and I don't think his price is extraordinary in fantasy this year. So, like, I think he's definitely a guy that I'll be grabbing because people are strikeout whores. People play this game, they love strikeouts, right? Mm-hmm. And so guys like Mize get overlooked because they'd rather go with a little bit more volatile kind of profile as opposed to, you know, a guy who might be a little bit safer. But I like Mize a lot, so I'm not talking trash at all. Because I do like Casey Mize.
Sounds like trash to me, man. What the hell? It's not cool. Detroit's pissed.
He's not a guy that I'm interested in for fantasy purposes. Doesn't mean he can't be a productive major league pitcher right now. And, you know, maybe he develops along the way and becomes that guy for later. But for me right now, I'll personally be staying away. But moving over to the bullpen, Michael, what do you see with them in terms of their closer situation? Because Gregory Soto was the guy who didn't start with the job, but eventually took it over. And then, you know, they kind of wavered on him at points. But he has, in my opinion, clearly the best stuff in the pen. But obviously the walk rate is an issue. What are you seeing there? Anybody that you see overtaking him? Or do you think that they really have faith that he can be the guy moving forward?
I don't know, Dave. The Detroit Tigers bullpen kind of looks like a Scooby-Doo ghost town. It's not great. There are issues. But there's one guy in the pen that the locals around here, they were kind of excited about. Alex Lang. I've never heard his name said out loud. Is it Lange?
Lange would be my assumption. Yeah, Lange, because of the E.
I've never heard it out loud, and I live here. What do I know? But there was some locals. I read something about him last year. And this guy said he really liked his stuff and that he was undervalued. He kind of got it together in 2020. And then this past season, he took it to another level. And there were moments where they liked him, but I am not sure that's accurate. So that's not me saying that. That's just somebody that I used to talk to about baseball on the reg around here who was a friend of mine who said, yeah, I think Lange could do good things. But as far as Soto, I love Soto. I was huge on Soto last year. He's kind of older than you think. He's been around for a while. I think this is his year where he gets the chance to unleash it. He throws hard, but it's really just a simple reliever. He doesn't have a lot to offer beyond that. So what else am I supposed to say other than that? Like Cisnero, this guy's saying, any chance Cisnero takes it over? I wouldn't rely on him all season. There's always a moment where a guy could jump in. Sure. And Cisnero did have some moments last year where we all picked him up in fab because we thought he would pop in, and I think he got a save or two here or there, but not someone I would consistently rely on as the go-to guy. So it's a mess, man. It's a real mess, and it's just like it's always been here. The bullpen is always a problem, unfortunately. It doesn't matter what era it is. It seems like the last 20 years, can't get a damn bullpen in this town to save our lives.
Yeah, and Michael Fulmer, I think, is an interesting guy as well, but he's had some trouble staying healthy, and I think
he's had trouble staying healthy as a starter.
Right. But
they moved him to the bullpen. That should keep him healthier. Fulmer's the guy that I'm going to be betting on. Like, people are drafting Soto.
Well, he had trouble staying healthy last year too, buddy, as a reliever.
Yeah, that was a problem. They did move him to the bullpen. He still got hurt. Not saying it's always going to happen, but
this is the whole reason why I say pay for saves. Like, I know the classic moniker that goes back to Matthew Berry and, the old ESPN Fantasy Focus days was don't pay for saves. Don't pay for saves. One, we have to remember those were for 10-team ESPN leagues. And two, conventional wisdom should have changed because you should pay for saves. Pay for the top guys so that way you don't have to fuck around with guys like Soto because you're going to draft Soto in like the 17th round and he's going to get 12 saves and the other, 27 saves or 30 saves or whatever are going to be split evenly among a bunch of other guys, or they'll bring someone in. They'll bring in, I don't know, some crappy proven guy to go do it for the year. I'm staying away from that situation unless I'm taking the cheapest guy in round like 40.
Fair enough. I mean,
boy,
that's the value approach there. But I do have Soto in the First Pitch Arizona Draft Champions League because closers went just incredibly early in that league. So I kind of had to make an adjustment, and I'm not sure. He seemed like the best guy on the board, but I never loved the walk rate. And like Justin's saying, I definitely think there's some risk there, but got to take a chance at some point.
Yeah, the walks are a problem at times for him. There's no doubt about that, but he seems to be a guy who is built for the role. He's not afraid of it, and that's not always the most important thing, but it certainly matters to me.
He throws 98, 99. He's got the classic fastball slider combo. He's
a lefty.
It's just about controlling it better, in my opinion. Like if he can harness that walk rate a little bit better, that control, I think he can do it. But it's not something you want to bet on.
And I misspoke. I said 17th round. He's going in the 13th round now.
Oh, yeah.
I don't have anything to fucking do with that.
I took him in the 13th, so I mean,
fuck no. Just absolutely not.
Would you rather have Mark Melanson in Arizona?
Absolutely, I would. Give me all
Arizona.
Because he's gonna end up on a different team halfway through.
I think I would rather have Melanson for what it's worth, but I don't know that there's a monstrous chasm between them. But speaking of First Pitch Arizona, Justin and I have talked several times about this, but I really wanted to hear your perspective, Michael, because the thing I love about you is you give it to people how it is. You're a straight shooter. You're a friendly guy, but you keep it real. And I kind of wanted to know what you thought, because this is your first year going there as well, I believe. And
that's correct.
We all hung out together finally. It was amazing. But I want you to tell me a little bit about like what was the favorite part of that? What was your favorite part of that experience? And did you have any regrets? And was there someone who surprised you there?
Well, Nelly, you asked really good questions, Dave. You're an excellent host. You really do host quite well. And I'm impressed.
I try.
At First Pitch Arizona was my first foray into the physical world of fantasy baseball. I've been on the internet last couple of years and just been doing stuff like this. We're all in a box right now. We can see each other. We can hear each other. But we can't touch each other. And that's what you miss the most. There's a lot of touching at first pitch. Too much touching, to be frank. But, I got past that because I'm a guy who likes to stay kind of isolated to himself personally. But you open up to it. You hug people and you say, hey, and sometimes somebody wears a really goofy outfit, like a onesie or maybe less than a onesie. Sometimes that happens there too. You'll be surprised. There's always...
I think you kind of come off as a guy who this is gonna sound weird, but wants to be touched. you look like the kind of guy who wants to hug people. Like you're very that inviting personality. So I think
do love a good hug, Dave.
I think it would come as a shock to people to hear that you were, unless this is just a COVID thing and you're just trying to avoid it for those purposes, like Justin's wife.
My wife
I do love a good hug.
My wife doesn't like people though. So that's the difference.
Oh yeah. She hates all of us. Yes, especially you, Justin.
Oh, for sure.
No, it was cool. It was really cool to see people. I got to see Dave and Justin and talk to them in real life. It's a little different though. You're sitting there and you're talking to them, but then you don't have to say anything for a moment. There was a few awkward pauses for some conversations I had. You're just kind of sitting there and taking in the scenery. But that's life. That's socializing with people. And nobody, well, not nobody, most people were kind and open and gracious. There's a few curmudgeons that are walking around there. I won't name names.
Name them.
I think they already know who they are. They don't like me, or maybe I did something. There's something about my style too. Some people don't like my style, whatever that is, and so they immediately avoid me, and that's okay because I'm willing to connect with all people. And you walk around the hotel, and there was just people everywhere. There was actually a little bit of fear for me, and I admit this freely because there's like big groups of people at tables. The way the hotel was set up, there's a bar and a restaurant to one side of the lobby. And as you walk over there, you see all these faces, and some of them you recognized, and some of them I didn't. And I'm like, oh crap, who are all these people? And which one do I talk to first? And I'm just gonna go over here. It was a little bit daunting at times, even for a guy like me who likes to connect and learn from others. So I do admit that. But I think the thing that surprised me the most was how willing people were to really dive in and talk with you for real about not just baseball stuff, but all kinds of stuff. And I really, really was grateful for that. That much I do know.
There's a question from the chat. Scott.
God damn it. All right.
Asking
why
Scott said, a.k.a. my personal troll, asks, Dave, why are you using the first webcam ever invented? Listen, it was a gift from my close and personal friends, the Flintstones, and I don't want to be rude. Yeah. I feel like I owe it to them to use this. So
Dave's using Netscape, Scott. That's why
Scott,
it looks that
you
way.
You can kindly fuck off. Love you. Talk to you later. But anyways, so Michael, back to first pitch. So I agree with a lot of what you're saying. And for me, one of my biggest fears was walking up to like a group of people and having them recognize me and me not recognizing them, like just based on we've never met each other in person. It's like,
right.
I might know who you are if I can see your Twitter handle or your Twitter, picture.
You're also a giant of a man. Like,
I didn't know how big Dave was either. I picked Dave up in the airport, by the way, everybody. And when I picked him up, me and Leanne, because Leanne went out with me.
Love Leanne.
We got in the car.
Every time possible. Yeah.
Yes, Leanne is a very, very reasonable human being.
She is.
And I told Leanne that Dave was 27 or something. I'm like, yeah, Dave's like 27. And before he got in the car, I was telling her this whole story about, yeah, he's a lot younger than me, but we really hit it off. And then he gets in the car and he's like 6'5" and he's basically my age. I don't know where the fuck I got that from. Sorry.
It's just a maturity thing is what it is.
Yes, he really comes off as such
he really comes off like as a teenager. And so
appreciate you guys. So these are my friends, by the way. This is what I hear from my friends. I'd really hate to hear what my enemies are saying.
Oh, you don't want to know, dude.
I really don't. I don't really care, to be honest with you. I try to be as nice and friendly with everybody that I can, and some people appreciate it more than others, and that's really all I can say. I am myself, and sometimes it's difficult to portray your full self online, but I feel like in person you can get a better handle on who I am, who all of us are. I feel like it was really good. I knew you guys were going to be great, but I still felt like I got to know you on a better level because we were actually interacting in person. You can talk to someone on Twitter all day. You cannot get an complete accurate portrayal of who they are.
I agree. There was definitely talking to you and Justin. There's a whole vibe, there's a whole energy that you have when you put we put every variable into play, the physical variable and the presence, and you have to be responsible for every word you're saying. You can't type them out, and delete them at your at your approval. You have to just communicate openly with people directly, and that's not a difficult thing to do necessarily, but it's definitely different than Twitter. I came into this business on Twitter. That's really how it started, and then COVID happened, so I was just stuck there. It's cool. Twitter's great. I've had a lot of fun interactions on there, but this was a chance for somebody who only knew people through these lenses of cameras and audio, and this was a chance for me to connect with people on a better level, of maybe a more
personal
level, and a level where you could kind of get a feel for what they were like, because people, they may try to hide who they are, but they don't always able to do that, especially when they're in person. Right, Sean Gavin?
So that's our buddy Woody, and he says, I agree.
This is Woody. Oh, yeah.
Woody. Yeah, it was a little intimidating being someone that was an outsider and meeting all of you, especially when all of you knew each other. So, yeah.
But you were the king, Woody. Woody was like the MVP of the whole weekend.
Woody just came with a suitcase full of Canadian beer and a suitcase full of Canadian snacks, and his way was like, look, I'm just going to feed and water all of you until you love me. And it was 100% the right move because it worked. We were all like,
all by himself. All by himself from Eastern Canada, not like Windsor or Toronto. He's from way over there. This guy made the trip, took a chance all by himself. Woody, I commend you. I was very impressed by you. You were such a kind dude. Thank you for making that effort. You made one of the biggest impressions of the entire trip on me, without a doubt.
I'll be honest with you. Like, if I was in his position, I wouldn't have the balls to do that. Like, if not knowing anybody, like, yes, we don't know each other in person. We didn't know each other in person, but we had talked enough that we were comfortable meeting up and everything. Like, with Woody, that would be real tough, being in his shoes.
Well, and I think this is something that I hear from people, whether it's at First Pitch Arizona or whether it's at like Tout Wars or stuff like that. People are like, oh, I don't want to like go up and like bother people, but like, no, we're all there to hang out. Like,
we're just people. We're just guys.
Yeah, just come out and hang out. Like, it's and we're not going to bite you. Like, I think the majority of the people in the industry are really, really good guys or gals, and like, we're a lot of fun, and you should join in that if you see us. Like, don't be afraid to like come and sit down and have a beer with those who drink, or just have a chat. It's
absolutely.
Speaking of gals, yeah. Oh, go ahead.
No.
Dave, sorry.
Okay, I was just gonna say, back to when you guys picked me up with Leanne. It was a freaking miracle that she found me, because not only did you tell her, look for this 27-year-old, the only thing she told me that you said was, I think he has a beard. So you didn't mention the fact that I'm
she went into the terminal to find him.
You didn't say 6'5", like one of my, it's like, hey, look for the guy who's towering above everybody else. That's probably Dave. You told her, look for a 27-year-old with a beard, and I'm wearing a mask. So it's a freaking miracle that she found me at all. I have no idea, by God's grace, how she found me within like 10 minutes too. Like, she got out of the car and found me pretty quickly, and she went to
Leanne's
the
great.
first.
Leanne's great. She
really is. She's awesome.
Yeah, she's awesome.
She's better than all of us if we're really being honest.
She really is. Yeah, I don't belong with her.
That's not hard though. Yeah,
it's a miracle. Somehow, I found someone who's a good person, and they're like, I should probably be with a good person, because I'm not always a good person. So it really helps. It makes a difference in your life. But one of the funniest moments I had on the trip was I got into the elevator to go downstairs. I was on the 3rd floor, by the way. A very nice room overseeing the entire Mesa courtyard area. And I get into the elevator, and there's Shelly Verstrate. I was like, oh, hey, Shelly, you're here. Hi. I think she didn't want to talk to me. Not that she didn't like me. Maybe, and if you don't like me, that's fine.
She's very shy and introverted, I believe.
Yeah. Well, that's the point of this discussion. Is like, I got to see people who. Hey, Dave, you ruined the story. Thanks a lot. Now, no, I'm just kidding. That was what I learned. Is like, okay, wow. See, now you don't have anything but avatars half the time. A logo with a handle and written words on Twitter. And I get into the elevator with Shell, and she's like, oh, hey, yeah. She told me she went for some hiking. She came by herself. Rudy was at home, and she told me a few things. And she got off the elevator, and she went off into the mist. And I never saw her again. I don't think until maybe at the draft on Saturday, or one of the last days I did see her.
At the minor league game, she sat kind of like one section over from us, so she definitely heard you. I will say that.
yeah, she definitely heard me. But it was great to see her. It was just cool. It was a quick exchange. But those kind of moments are what make First Pitch interesting to me and fascinating, because you just pop in an elevator with somebody you kind of know, you don't know, and then you talk to them for a minute, and then they go about their day, and then you're off to something else. Next thing you know, I was out the door, got into the car with Dave or something. We went off to Surprise to see some guys play some bozo ball.
That we did. So I thought it was really interesting, the answer that you gave me before, and maybe you'll change your answer now, but who was someone that surprised you at First Pitch that you met?
Yeah, who surprised me? That's a really great question, because that's
you
tough.
had a really good answer to this before, but I wanted to see what you said on the fly if you forgot what you told me before.
It's funny. I usually remember things. I don't remember what I told you at all. So let me see what I say now.
You told me Rob Silver.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a really good call. I could stick with that for sure, because Rob is he's the classic example of a guy who's on Twitter and he seems kind of like a dick. Like, oh, right. Man, this guy is, or an egomaniac or something. Like, oh, this guy just thinks he knows everything and I don't know shit. But couldn't have been farther from the truth. He came right up to me and he told me all these really nice things about me. He's
very direct. He's very direct.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I bet that would freak some people out. To me, that's like my kind of person. I love that. He just comes right into it, skips all the pleasantries and says, all right, here's the bottom line. I think you got something. I like what I see, but you got to do A, B, and C. I love that. I love that type of shit. And Rob just came right at me and told it like it was. And I couldn't have enjoyed it more. I wanted more of it, but then he was off doing the next conversation. So, yes, he definitely surprised me. He's certainly not a dick. He is certainly a cool customer. He speaks so well. And I'll just come from a guy, I have a voice. But he never stumbles. Like, it looks like he wrote out everything he's ever said in his life. It's fucking amazing. Doesn't matter what he's doing. A panel, a podcast, a conversation one-on-one at a bar. It's really impressive, and I was really, really impressed by him.
The NFBC panel, which was him, Clay Link, Justin, and Ryan Bloomfield, which ended up being 95% Rob Silver talking and 5% Paul Sporer talking.
Paul just he came the fourth unofficial member of that.
Oh yeah, it was. I like Clay Link might have said like 2 words, and Justin maybe said like 10, and that was pretty much it.
Justin had his folder, he has notes. He was so organized. He was ready to go.
Justin loves that shit. He's like, Justin's like, I brought you on this show so that I didn't have to do any goddamn work. So I love this shit. I love to stand up there and look pretty.
Exactly.
Or at least one of the two. All right. So, Govier, who is one person you'd like to see at First Pitch next year? Like, who is someone that you didn't see that was there that you'd be like, man, I'd really like to see this person there next year?
I think there's got to be a list. That's gonna be tough to pin it to one person for sure. But
I know. I'm gonna give you one bozo answer, and then you can list off the rest in a tweet later.
Yeah. Tweet later. Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that. That'd be wonderful. Boy, there's so many names. It's impossible. I mean,
it's almost like you got these notes about 2 weeks ago, and you had time to think about this.
That's funny. You should be a host. You're good. I'd love to. Vlad Sedler. I wish he was there. I really would love to have met him.
That's true. I've met him several times, but you haven't. So yeah.
Yeah, we talked. Me and Vlad talked a lot on Twitter, and we've had video discussions like this, but I've never met him in person, and he's definitely somebody I'd like to meet. But there's just a whole bunch of people. I mean, Rob DiPietro, I've never met him in person. I get the feeling that he's a really funny guy in person, and I would like to see what he's like in person as well. There's a big list of people that I've still yet to meet that I'm very much looking forward to seeing, and I've already told, like I had discussions with people about it after the fact, at least 10, 15 different times, saying, yeah, I definitely got to go to that next time, and I'm like, yeah, I'll be there. Let's do it, man. I would love to spend time with you. There are a lot of names and faces who haven't had a chance to branch out or still are newbies to the industry that haven't had a chance to meet people in physical real life. And I relate to a lot of them on that level. So I'm looking forward to the chance for all of them to get their asses down to wherever it'll be in Arizona next time.
I love that answer. And it's such a collection. We've got people like us. We've got people like Woody. We've got, casual players. We've got high stakes players. And you're kind of straddling that line now. I don't know what you would have considered yourself coming into the year, but having done your first main event now, I don't know what the highest, stakes games you had played before that, but are you transitioning to become a high stakes player? Was this just a one-off? Tell me about your experience this year, because you were kind of part of some bigger leagues this year, and tell me how you did.
By the way, Doug, I would love to meet Doug in real person. That's another guy I gotta meet in real life.
Yeah, for sure.
Doug Ishikawa, Coach Ish. Gotta see you at a first pitch. Yes. I would love to meet the whole Glarf crew.
You will meet them all, because that's the whole point of that, is to meet up in person for the draft. So you will definitely meet them.
That's right. And by the way, speaking of Glarfers, we met Jenny Butler for the first time. And it's so funny. Jenny's picture looked like a completely different person to me. So when I met her in real life, I didn't know it was her. She said hi to me. I was like, hey, hello. And I'm like, hey. But I didn't know it was her at the moment.
And then she's like, it's Jenny. And you're like, oh, hey, I actually know you. Okay.
That's exactly
to know you, but now I actually know you. Okay.
That's literally what happened. Yes. Jenny, I'm so glad I got to meet you and we got to draft together. Jenny. That was cool. Yeah. Big fan of hers. Really big fan. Even great bigger player. Fan, actually. That's an example of someone I'm an even bigger fan of now that I got to meet her. And I'm not even joking about that.
Yep.
So
I got to meet her in Vegas, NFBC in March, but only once. I think she's
speaking of high stakes players. She's definitely high stakes.
Yes, she is a high stakes player, very good player, and just a great person to hang out with and talk to. She was sitting next to me for several of my picks during the Draft Champions League too, at first pitch. So yeah, really enjoy getting her takes on stuff, and it's always funny when people like assume like her husband is the drafter, and they're like, oh, are you here with your husband? And she's like, no, he distracts me. He's kind of in the way, so I don't bring him along. I love that answer.
Yeah, fuck those morons. That's funny.
But so tell me more about your journey, into high stakes this year. Yeah,
high stakes society. Welcome to High Stakes Fantasy Baseball. All right, so that's Jurassic Park intro. Anyways, I'm thinking that I'm definitely going to be a high stakes player. I don't like labels, Dave. I don't appreciate your labels, but if you were to put me in a certain tax bracket, then...
Leanne told me the same thing about you.
Oh yeah, is that what she said? That's funny because she said you were pretty cute, so that makes sense actually. Yeah, shit.
I don't even know what's going on anymore.
Neither do I. I think
we was talking about labels, and I said, yeah, Leanne told me you don't like labels either. I was just taking a dig at you. It's all right.
Hey. That's right. Well, nobody's anybody's, okay? There's no property when it comes to relationship. Everybody's free forever. Sure. But, yeah, man, the main event was definitely the biggest money I ever spent on a fantasy endeavor by far. In fact, I never even made a bet for that much money. I think maybe I bet $200 at one time on a bet, but this blows that out of the water.
How much of that, the entry fee did other people contribute to you playing? Because I know a couple people said, I'll give you some money towards that.
They did. In fact, there was a couple opportunities for me to go halfsies, but we'd have to co-manage. And I was afraid to do that because I never co-managed with anybody. Like Sam, good friend Sam, who I mentioned last time I was on the podcast, by the way, who's still trying to collect research from all of you wonderful fantasy baseball players. Hit up Sam at SamFBB1 on Twitter. He's doing this wonderful, wonderful documentation of just your fantasy experience as a fantasy baseballer. He wants to know more about it. It's real quick and easy. And if you could do him a solid, go follow him on Twitter at SamFBB1 and ask him more about it. He'd love to tell you. But he lives in Washington, and you can't play NFBC there because they don't have, you're not allowed to legally, which is a bummer. And he's like, yeah, we could go halvesies. And I thought about it because I really was just getting to know him, and I liked him a lot. And this was really hard for me because another guy asked me to do it as well. And I'm like, you know what? It's easy to say yes, and it's easy just to go in, but it's harder to say no and slow your roll. When you're talking about $1,700 entry fee, you got to say, I'm sorry, I really do like you a lot, but this is something I have to do alone. I have to do on my own, and I eventually ponied minus a coupon or whatever. There was like I think I got $100 off from Mike the Mouth's coupon codes that he hands out like candy during the preseason and something like that. But I paid it all myself otherwise. It was all me.
Okay. All right. So this was by far your biggest expenditure that you've ever had before. So do you plan on, I mean, obviously you got third place, you got your money back. Do you plan on rolling that back in? Like, do you plan on doing the main event again? Are you going to come out and draft live? Are you going to do another online one? Or are you going to do something else?
Well, I'm definitely going to play again. I'm definitely going to be back. And
excellent.
As far as being a high stakes player, I suppose you could just start to lump me in there. I'm definitely into it. I never knew what I could do until I dove in. I played fantasy baseball for 20 years. And I beat my friends, and sometimes they beat me. I don't always win. So you don't really know what you got until you put your money into the pot, and then you find out. And I found out that, I'm probably as good as most players out there. I could definitely hang. So this is going to be a new thing for me, and I'm going to play. We played the tag team league, which was a $250 apiece, $500 grand total entry between me and Eric Cross. And I don't know if we're doing that again, if we're going to switch teams up, how that'll all go. But I'm down for that. Definitely down, Matty Wood, to do the tag team league again. And other leagues. I did a bunch of RotoWire OCs. That was $350 a piece, and I played like shit in all three of them. But I think we talked about that at first pitch. I talked about both you guys, the difference between 15 teams and 12 teamers.
Difference.
There's a huge difference. And
strategy-wise, you have to come in and you have to have a different strategy for the different types of leagues. So, doing the main event for the first time, did you approach this differently than other years? Like, did you just do this the same way you did any other years, or were there some things that you took, some extra steps that you took, some podcasts that you listened to, or some materials that you looked into or purchased to help you with that?
I did. Yeah, I did buy a few things. I bought that RotoLab program that Vlad was hawking, part of Baseball HQ, I think. It kind of coincides with that, and it gives you projections, updated projections as things move along.
How was that, by the way? I've never used that before.
I liked it. I liked it for creating my own leagues. You have to input a lot of data, and it can be tedious and time-consuming. But if you're a super baseball nerd, I think it's worth it. I don't think it was like, just it's like $40 or something.
Yeah,
like
it's that. I think it's like $40. Just get a subscription to Baseball HQ. So it's you can get like the preseason subscription to Baseball HQ or half season subscription, and then it's like I think $20 or $30 with that. So it's well worth it. I got it as well this year. It was my first year using RotoLab.
What'd you think?
I liked it. It's good. What I like about it is you can edit the projections. So you can hey, I don't like the projection on this guy. I can bump up 5 home runs, or I can lower the batting average here, or I can, and so I liked it for that. I've used RotoWire in the past, and it's a great product as well. I think draft software is fantastic, especially if you're going to be doing auctions. Like, there's nothing, to have the draft software in the auction is really, really nice.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I didn't play many auctions at all last year. I played one. It was the first time I did baseball auctions, actually, and I'm going to do more of them. I really dug it. It was very cheap, though. It was run by Brent Herzog?
Hershey.
Not Hershey.
Herzog.
The other guy.
Oh, Herzog.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah,
there's two of them.
Brent Herzog from Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a cheap $25. Get in and try to have some fun. And I really dug the process. I'll do more of those. But yeah, I bought a half subscription to Baseball HQ. I also bought a DFS prescription. I needed a prescription because when I paid for that, it was a big chunk of money for full season DFS coverage. That didn't really work out that well at all. I'm not going to do that again. But I definitely paid more money into like looking into people's beyond the paywall research, which I had never done before. That'd probably be the only thing I really did different this year.
Okay. All right. Well, it sounds like kind of a mixed bag there, but that's how you kind of figure out what you use moving forward. Personally, the only thing that I spend money on is the forecaster. So, it's $20 that I spend every year. And I love, another Baseball HQ product. At this point, we should just be able to get free Baseball HQ subscriptions from Ryan and the Baseball HQ boys. And we got Matt Williams with another slight at me. I missed the first part of that. What was that?
It says, hello, fellow fantasy baseball personalities, and Dave.
Oh, that's a good one, Matt. By the way, Matt would be tops the list. Me and Matt have worked like hand in hand at RotoFanatic, running the site together in 2020, and we still work there together. I basically spent a lot of time with Matt Williams in 2020. We've still never met each other in person, so definitely somebody I want to meet.
I worked with Matt Thompson for 4 years before I met him in person.
Oh wow.
That is wow! Holy shit!
So I'm hopefully going to be meeting Matt Williams when I come out for Tout Wars, because I'll be in the New York area. That's where he lives. So it would be a shame if he did not like jump over the bridge from New Jersey and come say hi.
It'll be South Jersey, but yeah, still, yeah, he has no excuse not to be there. You're right. And I also, Dave, I didn't answer your question on that main event part where you asked me, would I draft in person at Las Vegas or other sites?
Yeah.
New York. Is it New York?
Yeah, New York and Chicago.
Oh, there is a Chicago one. Yeah, I'm not opposed to any of that. I just don't know what I'm going to do yet, but I would totally be down for a trip to Vegas or New York. That all sounds like a lot of fun to me. I'm not afraid of it. I would welcome the opportunity, and doing a live draft with some of the best, the people who pay up the big money for the main event on NFBC. That sounds like a good time.
Oh yeah, there is nothing like the live draft experience. It's as good as their online drafts are. I mean, I can do that at a lot of different sites, but what NFBC offers that nobody else does is that live draft experience, which is unmatched. And once you do it, you're never gonna stop going. Like you're gonna want to go every year. And you don't even have to do the main event. You can do lower priced leagues and whatnot, and you'll have a blast. And
that's for losers, dude. I'm an elitist now. Fuck those people. I'm out. Beyond that,
you could do the higher stakes leagues like me too. You could do a super or an ultimate or
And he might show up on time for it.
You might. You never know. I mean,
you're never gonna live that down, Dave, for like 10 years.
If you want to double your money like me, you show up late. So I don't know what to tell you.
It's amazing. That's incredible.
Obviously,
looked into a great auto draft in Tatis right there. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, that totally makes sense because Bellinger didn't hurt at all, and it's not like I was going to take Trey Turner over Tatis anyhow or anything. Yeah, definitely hurt more than it helped. That is no question about that. Hurt a lot more. But obviously,
I guess we'll never know.
No, we definitely know. Michael, we definitely know. I would have had Trey Turner and Woodruff. Those were my planned 2 picks. So that would have worked out infinitely better than Tatis and Bellinger. But shit happens. If you want to come out to Vegas, you know who to get in touch with. So just let me know.
Yeah, well, we still got other things to do too besides that.
We do. But for now,
December now, Dave. December. Just saying.
Well, I believe I'm winning on you. You were the one who got busy here, so.
Well, that's the biggest load of shit I ever heard. We talked about it first pitch that you were working on your routine. You were not ready. So.
Oh, okay. That was in October. That was a while ago. You were the one who rescheduled conversations 3 different times after that. So
that's true. Although I did call you and it went to voicemail. I did leave you a message, but then you called me back. That's where we're at right now. So.
I'm glad we're doing this on air.
Yeah, this is a great one-on-one show meeting live.
All right. So back to high stakes. What was your biggest mistake this year? What lessons did you learn from 2021, and what can you take forward with you to 2022 to improve?
Boy. Ugh, these are good questions. They really are. I'm not just saying that. You really thought about it, and I'm proud of you. I considered this notion, and mistakes will happen. We all make them. I made mistakes related to hanging on too long. It wasn't panic moves. It was hanging on too long. That was probably the number one beef I have. Yeah. So I guess I'm not a weirdo. I'm quite the norm. But if I had one beef with Michael Govier, Fantasy Player 2021, that's probably it. I just hung on to certain players I should have cut bait with. I mean, the whole Bellinger thing, I consider the Bellinger thing a fluke. I drafted Bellinger in Glarf, which is our Great Lakes Area Roto League, which is a part of Earth, the big regional component with many leagues in it from some of the best of the biz. And I could have cut him in August or July, and I would have been fine, really. But with a guy of a name like that, you just think the law of averages say that usually guys like that turn it around. And I think Bellinger's season in particular was an anomaly. It was just very odd. I'm not saying for his career it was, but in terms of a stud, former MVP, still very young, still right in the heart of the best talent that he can ever offer, to be that bad all year is just a strange situation, right?
I think it was a complex component. Several components kind of came together working against him. The whole reason I was avoiding him going into the year was because he was clearly having shoulder issues, but then aside from that, he was changing his swing after coming off of an MVP season. So I don't love that. Anytime a guy is trying to change the way that they've been doing something, that's a red flag for me. And it could have been because he was injured that he was changing things. But then, so he had the shoulder injury, he had the changing swing, and then he hurt his leg. So now we've got that issue. And it was all these things convalescing together. And it was a just all around shit year for him. But to be fair, I'm usually pretty good at moving on quickly from guys. Like something I've learned after years of playing it with NFBC with the 7-man bench, where you can't hold on to guys because taking zeros is infinitely worse than trying to just hold on to guys. And, taking those zeros is worse than just moving on quickly. But I held on to Bellinger in that Super League because every time he got hurt, it didn't seem like it was that long. Like if he was out for 3 months, I would have dropped him and been done with it. But it was like, he's going to be out a couple weeks. Okay. And then a couple weeks turns into a month and a half. And then that's the problem with this. But he was a tough drop for sure. There's no question.
Yeah. There's other guys that are not as popular as him. They're more middle of the road. I should have cut bait with, and I didn't. Ahmed Rosario, he actually was useful later in the year, but a great part of the year, he was not useful. And I should have cut bait. That's another guy I think of. And there's at least 10 more names I could think of. The bottom line is don't panic. I say sit tight in April. I really do. But by May, you got to make some choices, I think.
I think that's a good call. I usually say 6 weeks is generally, if there's someone I really believe in, I give them 6 weeks to see what I've got from them. And if I'm not seeing what I need to see, then I'm moving on. You had previously mentioned the Earth League. Tell me a little bit about that going into your first year in this new league that we just formed, which, by the way, for those of you who don't know, Michael was the impetus for forming the league. He came to me with the idea for a Rust Belt league, and I kind of tried to move the idea forward a little bit and bring in some other people in the area so that we could put together this league of good fantasy players and analysts that could get together and draft in person, kind of like Barf, which Justin was a part of starting. So tell me what went wrong, or what went right and wrong, and how did you do this year?
Let me tell you everything that went wrong with my life since the age of 5. It all began in 1986, man. Shit. My dad was a dick. Wait a minute. You didn't ask that, did you?
I did not, no.
No, you didn't. Okay. Glarf is awesome. Glarf is different, too, because it has quality starts and it has OBP.
Well, it did.
Oh, is it over?
It may not.
It's not over, but it sounds like the move is going to be made to NFBC, where we will no longer be able to have OBP and quality starts. So it'll be typical 5x5 roto with trades or with no trades.
No trades? I mean, come on. These are radical decisions.
Well, you can't. If you're moving it to NFBC, that's not a possibility to have a league like that.
Maybe we should do that. I mean, Fantrax is not that bad. It's really not. I got used to it.
There is a large contingency that wants it to move to NFBC to the point where I don't know. I'm with you. I enjoyed it. This is the first time I'd ever done the OBP quality starts with trades, and obviously I enjoyed it, but it's not about what I want or what any one person wants. So if the majority of the people want to do something different,
it's about what Justin wants. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Understood. Well, if Justin wants it, then I acquiesce. I'm totally down with whatever he wants. That's fine by me.
I don't care either way, honestly.
I just thought it was cool that Glarf was unique in terms of an analyst league because it had trades too. And I don't need a lot of trades leagues, but I thought it was just something that you could use. It was in your back pocket. We didn't have a lot of trades really until the trade deadline, but it was there, and that's cool.
It is, but it also creates controversy. Sometimes people don't love seeing people make trades. Mal Williams says Fantrax Fab is the Christmas fruitcake of Fab.
I don't even know what that means, but
it means it's the worst. That was the most common as the commissioner of Glarf. What I constantly had to hear people complain about was the Fantrax Fab system, which is vastly inferior compared to NFBC's.
That's the big problem with the Fantrax. Is the Fab.
It is. That is the biggest problem. So yeah, there's no perfect solution, unfortunately. I wish we could kind of just take the format and move it over to NFBC, but keep everything else the same, including the different Fab time, because I do not want another Fab league that runs at the exact same time as all my other Fab leagues. That's for me the biggest sticking point.
Yeah, it's all about you guys, huh? All
right. After I just said it's not about what I want.
No. It's whatever people hear last. That's what counts.
Okay.
But Glarf was cool, man. We had a great crew in there. Carm Marano, DVR. Is he still in? He's gone though because he moved to California.
No, he's gone now. Yeah, we replaced him with Adam Howe from the On the Wire podcast.
He's gonna have to apply to Barf.
Ooh, is there an open spot?
I don't know that there is. We also have like a waiting list. Steve Paulo has been trying to get into Barf for a few years.
Oh, I love Steve Paulo. He's a great guy. Yeah. I would love to have met Steve Paulo at first pitch because
Steve's a funny guy. Well, I like him. Yeah,
he's got a great voice too. One of the most underrated voices. So smooth.
It is smooth.
He loves Disneyland and Disney World and anything Disney, which is funny because he's like this big guy. He looks strong and burly, and he just loves talking about Disneyland for hours on end. Makes me laugh. He's a funny dude. Yeah. It is true. It's all true. He did a Disneyland best rides like Field of 64 tournament. The best rides at Disneyland, not even Disney World.
I remember this. Yeah.
What is happening right now? Like, what is happening?
All the way. Yeah,
I'm just talking about Steve Paulo's personal life. I'd probably just revealed everything he doesn't want me to say. Sorry, Steve.
All right,
I still love you,
Steve. So Glarf is cool, but tell me about how you did. What went right? What went wrong? What did you learn?
Well, Dave beat me in Glarf, and I finished third because Lucas finished second. He got me on the last day.
Yeah.
Good for you, buddy.
That was
Lucas is a sweet boy.
He's a very nice guy.
And he's got a lot of soul. He's got a lot going on. He's got a lot going on that you might not know about. If you see Lucas Beery on the surface on your Twitter feed, hit him up, engage him in some conversation. If you like real talk, Lucas is the man for you. And I'm really glad that we got to meet at first pitch as well.
Very nice, very intelligent guy, really knows his prospects and does nothing but want to talk baseball. He wants to talk baseball 24/7. Like at first pitch Arizona, it would be like, hey, how's it going, Lucas? What do you got going on today? He's like, oh, not much. By the way, so what do you think about your approach this year with do you want to get their starting pitchers early again? Or it's like, man, he just goes right in, and I love it. He is.
I think that says a lot about you.
Gung ho, does it?
He says a little more about you, and because what he talked to me a lot about was his wife and like relationships, and that's interesting. I don't know. Maybe different people bring out different conversations. We didn't talk as much baseball.
I feel like shortchanged now, maybe.
Yeah. Well, hey.
No.
Something to look forward to next time.
I just realized I wasn't following Lucas on Twitter.
Oh wow.
I apologize. I love.
How dare you?
I don't know.
No, so part of the other thing is that we actually we text and like Lucas and I talk. Like I'd consider him a real life friend, and he was someone who I'd talk to more than most going to first pitch. So I guess we've talked about his family life before. So maybe
been there, done that.
That's why maybe that's why he kind of addressed that with you instead. But
we never got a chance to rap at all, and we rapped a lot. And he's a really, really good fantasy player. If you see him in your drafts, you better take cover because the guy knows what he's doing, and I think he's on his way to being a really elite fantasy player, not just a good one. He's on his way. He's still a young guy too, so
he's a sponge. He soaks up everything and he listens to everything. He listens to more pods than anybody else I know. It's incredible how
Chris
much
Marr
he takes in. More than who?
Baseball pods?
At Baseball Pods, Chris?
That's a good question. That would be a horse race, I think. I think those two are probably way up there.
By the way, if we're giving votes on who we want to see at first pitch next year, Chris is my vote. That's
okay.
Absolutely.
That's a good one. I
thought that was just like in perpetuity. That's obvious. Yeah. If you've never met Chris, you've never met Chris?
I've never met Chris. I mean,
shit.
Hung out with him on Zoom, but that's about it.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you'd met him by now, I guess. But I don't know. What do I know? I don't know everything. I mean, people have been around this business doing stuff, talking to people, making predictions, winning money, losing money, but there's still opportunities for things that have never happened before. And I love those stories. I mean, sometimes you work with a guy for 4 years and you never meet him.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to...
Where were we, Dave? What topic were we on?
We're
talking Glarf. We're talking Glarf. Let's finish Glarf real quick.
Okay. Okay.
So Glarf is awesome.
Like you want to talk about it, so go ahead.
Look. Well, I have a question because Dave not only beat you in the overall of the Earth, right? He beat you in Glarf. Are you gonna take Dave down? Like, what are you gonna do to take Dave down a peg or two? Because he needs to be taken down a peg or two.
Well, I'm going to pull out all the big guns, Justin. Everything I've got in my arsenal is ready at the forefront. We're ready to take down Dave. We're going to embarrass him. We're going to hit him on social media. We're going to hit him on the airwaves. I'm taking out radio spots, billboards, magazine ads, whatever I have to do to get this fucker, I'm going to get him. Because he's a good fantasy player, but you can be beat, Dave, and I will. Oh, I repeat, oh yeah, I will get you.
No, you won't.
It's going to be tough. Yeah, you're right. You are a challenging player to go against, but what it'll take is to be consistent. Also, don't miss the trade deadline. That was a big mistake on my part. I was in Georgia at the time, visiting my nephew for his birthday.
I remember that,
And the trade deadline came through that night, and I was awake, and I was trying to do some last-minute deals at like 1 in the morning, but everybody went to bed at like 12:30, which is unheard of. Usually people stay up late for the trade deadline, so I missed out.
Yeah.
Regrettable decision. Next year's goal is to be there for the trade deadline, if there is one, which doesn't sound like there will be now.
Doesn't
So
sound like it's going to be. So
that might be a moot point,
to be
actually.
fair, I think I was about 15 to 20 points ahead of you at the trade deadline, but I hear you. You know, it definitely can be a factor. I think I actually had some messages sitting in your DMs about trades with you that you never responded to.
Brady Singer was a weird guy. Brady Singer 1 minute he'd have a great start, and then he'd be terrible for 2. And he screwed me a bit. There's some players that faltered. My pitching slipped a little bit, and the hitting really disappeared on certain cats. You did. Yeah, it was a bummer. But you made good pickups. Your fab pickups. Dave Mcdonald makes excellent fab decisions for the most part. He almost seemed to be a wizard. Everyone calls Vlad Sedler the fab whisperer, but in Glarf this year, it just seemed like Dave could do no wrong. He never overpaid, and he would complain about not getting guys that people paid more money for, but then they ended up wasting that money because those players were overpriced, and he would get cheaper versions of them, and he just kept doing that again and again and again, and that's how he won.
Part of my process is to get the money out quickly in a league where in Fantrax Fab, unlike NFBC, you can make $0 bids.
I like that.
And I think too many people held onto their money until the point where they were throwing like $200 in the last couple of weeks at guys who they were already out of it by the last couple of weeks. You have to spend your money early. And I remember you were critical of me for spending my money early. I remembered you put something on Twitter, Michael, where you were like, oh, some of these guys spent some big money in week 1. I don't know about that. $200 on, Ian Kennedy. I don't know if that's going to work out, and it's fair,
A very good impression, by the way.
Yeah. I've been working on it. I got kudos on my impression of you on the last pod too. So, it's one I like to bust out every now and then.
Thank you.
But I think you got to get that money out early. And oh God, why are you doing this to me? Matt Williams says we can kidnap Dave so he can't draft just like in the Oscar-nominated classic Celtic Pride.
That's a good one. Daniel Stern, Dan Aykroyd. That's a classic.
Holy shit! I saw that in movie theaters. I'm just realizing
I've never seen that.
Time ago. No, nobody ever needs to see that. Nobody needs to see that.
It's a bad movie, but you should see it. You should see it. It's terrible. Damon Wayans plays a Utah Jazz superstar, similar to a Charles Barkley type, I guess. And there's a heart with that movie. It's very underrated. A lot of heart.
My point is you got to get those impact players early. And if you wait too long to spend your fab money, and I think Lucas still had like, $500 left with like a week left. Like that's too long to be, you don't want to be stingy with your money. You want to be getting those guys in the first half of the year because those guys you're going to be making an impact on your team for a longer period of time, even if they don't last the whole year. I was always trying to make sure that I had a good roster for the upcoming week, whatever I had to do that. And if I ran out of money, I could still throw $0 bids out there.
With $0 bids, that changes a lot. Yeah.
Right.
That's huge. Good point.
It is. So, but next year, if we go to NFBC, it's the opposite. You cannot run out of money in that. So it'll be interesting to see how we transition, but I still plan on beating you all again. So it'll be a fun time.
If you won it back-to-back overall, that'd be incredible. It's pretty hard to do. So.
Oh yeah, and especially if we had more leagues and everything.
No, it won't happen. Yeah.
Okay.
No, I mean not overall. You might win the league, but you're not winning overall again. That's very, very challenging.
When are we seeing this belt? By the way.
That's part of the issue. Is there's still people who I have to collect from because not all of the area
You need to Tanya Harding some kneecaps.
I know.
It's December, man. I mean, there's nothing wrong with giving a month or so, but come on, it's December.
I know. I should be a little bit more. I should push a little bit more here, but some of the other commissioners are not as helpful with collecting. So
with inflation, the value of your winnings is going down more than it was in October.
I know. Yeah. So, I mean, because I got all of the logos from everybody, so I'm really excited to put together a belt and to show it off to you guys. So, because I think it'll be cool looking, and it'll be and Glarf has a belt too. So I got to make a Glarf belt and the overall Earth belt. So, Justin, did you guys give away the barf? Oh, he just left.
He's got to take a dump.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Did you guys give away the barf trophy yet?
We give away the barf trophy at the draft.
The next year. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So that's when we give it away.
That's nice. You get plenty of time. That's a good, nice buffer time.
Yeah. So we kind of went over a bunch of stuff with Glarf here. My only other thing that I want to bring up was that in a league where most of us were coming from being typical standard roto 5x5 players, where we weren't used to OBP and quality starts, I felt like coming in, my thought was that people were going to overemphasize those two categories because they were the new categories. Like, people were going to really pump up the high OBP guys and really drop the lower OBP guys. And same thing with the quality starts. And, you should do that to an extent, but I thought coming in there might be an overcorrection. And I think I was a little bit correct in that, because I got Sal Perez in the 11th round, and I get that he's not a good OBP catcher, but this is still a guy who's playing every day. I mean, obviously, given the season he had, it would be absurd, but even coming off of 2020, the short season, you knew that this is a guy who's a skilled hitter. He's got power. He plays every day, and people were just ignoring catchers because not only is it an OBP league, but it's only a one catcher league. But how much better is it having a guy who plays every day than a part-time catcher? I mean, I don't know who your catcher was, but if you had to stream someone, I was just crushing you at that point with catcher, like I feel like that.
I drafted Gary Sanchez. So.
Yeah. Okay.
Gary, poor Gary.
Did you feel like that overcorrection happened where people kind of hyper focused on those two categories?
I think you're absolutely right. And I was partly involved in that. My home league is a head-to-head OBP league. And so I'm well versed in the OBP. It wasn't new for me, but yes, I think even I got a little bit caught up in trying to make sure my guys were OBP bottoms at minimum, that they had a baseline that wasn't too bogus that was going to screw me, and to the detriment of other opportunities and statistics. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. That was my thought. Granted,
I think you're right.
I think we're gonna it's not even gonna be concerned for next year, so it won't even matter. But just figured I'd ask you because I thought it was interesting.
I think you're absolutely right about that. I don't think if you look at the draft results, if we could go back and review them, you'll see a lot of opportunities where people cashed in on stats because they needed the OBP guy to have that part of his profile. It's like we're looking for too many 5-tool guys. I got to have all the tools and OBP to throw in there, and you're not going to get that all the time. And I think OBP blinds people. And actually, that's a good article. You should write an article about that.
I was kind of thinking about that, but I think it would also be coming from people who weren't used to those leagues like us. Like, that was my first time ever playing OBP quality starts. I don't know. Well, you said that you've played OBP before.
OBP is my home league, 7 years plus running now. Quality starts is something I've played once in a while, but not on the regular at all. Yeah. Not on the regular, Dave.
I think a lot of the people were like me, where we weren't used to those categories, and so I kind of figured people would kind of over focus on those two things. But
that's right. Obsession. Right. OBP obsession is what happened.
I know it is, and quality starts. But now we're going to hear that impression again, because it's time for everybody's favorite segment. It's the Fantasy Benefits Inquisition.
Yay! All right, cool.
I wish I had all the sound effects and music like you do. It's not quite as good, but
yeah, I know. It's still great, though. You really presented it well. That was an excellent introduction, David. Well done.
Ooh, Nelly.
Oh, boy. It's going to be a doozy.
Yeah, I love that, though. so obviously we know each other pretty well, and we've become, I would say, pretty good friends. But one of the things that I've always valued in you is that direct honesty and everything. So, and I'm honest with you, you're honest with me, and I think it helps us both move forward as people, correct our missteps when we make them, and hopefully move forward as better people. But one of the things that I noticed was coming into the season last year, one of the narratives around you was, you've got this, you're a really good personality. You're loud, you're boisterous, you're kind of goofy, but I had heard from people that they didn't really take you seriously. And I think a lot of that has to do with that persona. Do you feel like you're overlooked as a fantasy player a bit because of that? Because I felt like that coming into the year. And I'll be honest with you, before I got to know you better, like when I saw you picking the 15th slot in every pick, I'm like, oh my God, he's fucking clueless. But after having seen what you put together this year, I was thoroughly impressed. And I was the first one to tell you, or at least I told you right after the season, I said I was really impressed with how you did in your leagues this year. Yeah, you didn't win stuff, but like if you're getting like second and third consistently, that makes you a good player. Winning one overall or winning one league is not what matters. It's consistently being in position to do that in all of your drafts that makes you a good player. So tell me a little bit about what you think about that.
Thank you, David. That's very kind of you. David is a really good person, by the way. If you don't know that, don't be fooled by his twits or his tweeter. Don't be fooled. This guy is a sweet human being. He's a good friend, and I'm glad that we know each other quite well now. But yeah, I was not aware of this, this kind of bias towards me, or to people in general who maybe come off as more entertainment and less substance. That really was fascinating. You told me about this, I think, like a couple months ago or so, back in October when the season wrapped, I believe.
Yeah, right around then. Yeah.
And I was totally taken by surprise. Like, oh, really? Wow. Yeah, I guess I didn't think about that. And if you were not putting yourself out there in terms of your output and the results that you had received, then people might really think that. And it just kind of reminded me that not everybody is me. Not everybody is thinking the way I think, or vice versa. And it was a reality check that I think I'm glad I have. In fact, I'm really glad I had it, because it's good to know what you put out there isn't just taken for granted, that you have to put the work in and you have to show people that you have what it takes to put on a show that not only is entertaining, but provides you with substance. Because why would somebody want to listen to somebody who just entertains them if they're playing for money? You want data. You want somebody who could give you tips on fab pickups or players that are trending in the right or wrong direction, because you're trying to make money. You're not here to entertain yourself necessarily. Fantasy baseball, any fantasy sport, is about cash. It's about Skrilla, right? And this was a reminder for me, and I'm glad you told me about that. But you answer your question, I had no idea. I just thought I was a bozo, and I always knew I was a bozo, and I'm fine with that. I'm very comfortable with who I am. But other people think that I'm one way, and that it means I won't be able to offer them in another way anything of value. Then you're just doing a disservice to yourself. You are not taking the time to really identify with me, and nor am I taking the time to identify with you either. So it would go both ways. If I was assuming that, looking at Justin and looking at how he is, he just has got a guy with a beard, and he has some great shirts, and he looks good in a swimsuit. That doesn't mean that he's good at fantasy baseball. I might just be like, well, this guy just, look at that. This is a classic example. He's wearing a shirt of his own face that's drawn on his body right now. So
I am sadly also wearing a shirt with Justin's face on it.
Oh, are you? Okay.
As you should. You should be wearing a shirt.
I'm not. Yeah, I think this is all just, that's just my nipple.
That's your nipple, yeah. Oh,
yeah. But if I was to assume that Justin had a lot to offer based on what he presented, I probably wouldn't, frankly. I'd have to actually listen to what he has to say and pay attention to him fairly regularly to know that he could provide me with very valuable fantasy baseball advice, that he's a veteran player, that his experience pays off for me as the listener, as somebody who's a part of his community of listeners, whether it's the Friends with Fantasy Benefits pod or the Sleeper in the Bus, whatever it is. So I think anybody who dismisses somebody because they look like a bozo like myself, because I like to just make fun of myself and I don't take life too seriously all the time, then you're just missing the boat. You got to stop and really decide to commit to listening to my podcast, because we do hour-and-a-half podcasts. We don't do 10-minute pods. We offer a lot of opinions. Me and Deary go into detail about players, about strategy. In fact, I owe a lot of credit to Dave for getting even more focused on the strategy, because that's what matters more than player analysis. Anybody can give you the stats and the analytics, and they could send you to the proper StatCast page to take a look at this guy's heat maps, but not everybody can tell you how to properly build a roster that'll win you a title on a consistent basis.
I agree. And to be clear, what I was hearing wasn't that they, completely were writing you off. It was more that I think there's a perception that if you're a good player, you can't also, be whatever personality you are. You have to be this kind of stoic, all business, like Phil, kind of more robotic and, less flamboyant, I guess. But
it's like vote for politicians. The people who win presidency usually are, they're reserved. You can't be like remember when Howard Dean went, yeah, we're going to win Michigan. And he went off and he totally lost everybody there because they thought he was a psycho.
I mean, I used to think that until our president before the current one changed my mind on what can actually win a presidency. So, but yes, in general, I agree. It's very similar, but I just want people to understand I'm a high stakes player. I play against a lot of the best players in the world, and
you do.
Based on what I saw from Michael last year, I absolutely think he belongs in that group. So definitely you should take him seriously, even though his personality kind of makes you feel like, okay, this guy's just a joke. He's not, I promise you. He was one of my toughest competition in multiple leagues last year. So he is a legitimately good player. So
thank you, Dave. Very kind of you.
So in becoming a good player, what one or more person or entity besides yourself do you trust the most for fantasy advice? Entity meaning it could be like a company or a website or a person.
That is a good one. Well, Dave, I'm telling you, Dave, this is the night that Dave became the master host. This is the night. We're never going to forget this night, Justin, ever.
You guys are both probably better hosts than me, but I can come up with some good questions.
Oh, no. No. These, where you lead someone is everything. That's what being a host is. Lead them to thought, to give the people a adequate or at least a doable response. But you've gone on another level here. These are excellent questions because there's 10 million websites. There's so many resources. And, you got Fangraphs that people go to, and you got your RotoWires and even Yahoo. I will say this. I go to Yahoo every day during the season because I like their player tabs, and I could look at the way they organize their game logs, last 10 games, quick stat hitters that I want to look at. It's just nice and organized for me. So I definitely use that, and I'm not ashamed of it. And I play for big money.
You only get one. So you can have for the whole season and the off season leading up to it, you can only use one resource. It can be a person or it can be a site, whatever you think is the most important thing to your game.
Yeah. I think if I had to have a person, that would limit me because it would just be one person's point of view, even if they were an amazing player like you or Justin. If I had to settle for one of you the whole year, that'd be nice. But a website at least has multiple perspectives at it that you can siphon through and kind of figure out who you prefer. So
I would not use Justin as your one resource.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Well, I never said that. I'm just saying, for example, it was a hypothetical, right? Yes. But I guess I think this is impossible. This is so hard.
Justin, do you have an answer?
Oh, it's Fangraphs. Yeah, I mean,
Fangraphs. Yep, I would have to say
because
that
you get all the players, they've got the StatCast info on there now. They even have NFBC ADP on there. You've got roster resource, you've got game logs. I mean, so for me it would be Fangraphs, but I'm also a little bit biased because I work for Fangraphs.
That's fair.
Uh-oh.
But I use it. I mean, if I were to show you my other computer right now, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different Fangraphs tabs open.
I've got you beat by a multiple of about 30. So yeah, I hear you.
By the way, I want to give Matt credit here. He wrote a nice comment about me. It's about me, and thank you, Matt. You're very kind. So you're a good boy.
Matt Williams said, "What other people think in quotation marks should be on no one's priority list. You kick ass, Mike. You are a riddle wrapped in a Rubik's cube, and we would have it no other way." I agree with him right there. I like that.
Thank you. Thanks, Matt. So yeah, actually, Fangraphs was at the tip of my tongue, but now that I'm thinking about it, I'm taking myself back in time to the heart of the season. It's July 1st, and I'm really grinding, and I need some stats. I need some data. I need a look at what's coming in, and I want to see it from a couple different angles with great detail if I so choose. I think I would probably go with StatCast.
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay. All right. I like that.
I love the way they, not just like the player profile pages, it's the game box scores they have now. There's so much in those box scores beyond the surface stats.
The live game feed stats are excellent for sure. Like you can get CSW rate. There's a lot of stuff in there. Yeah, for sure.
And the way they organize it between different pitchers, and it's all organized so well. I could totally live with that. Yep.
I feel like I need to look into that more. Like I feel like I'm not familiar enough with it.
I don't use it enough.
I use some parts of it, but I'm sure there's probably stuff on there that would shock me that I don't even know it's there.
Yeah, I became to rely on it like exclusively, especially when I was putting together stuff for the next day. When I was doing the videos I did in 2020, that's when I first got into it. But the last year, they got even better with their organization and structure and detail at a click of a button with, the pitch maps where every pitch was thrown. And then you could look over and see the CSWs of individual pitches, not just the overall. It's really, really well done. And I got to give baseball credit for that. They do a lot of dumb things, but they've done that quite well.
That's true. So speaking of dumb things, we talked about how last year you loved the 15 pick. And kudos to you, by the way, for doing as well as you did while also drafting 15th, because I had to draft 15th in the main event and I hated it. Like, I think that what you got at the beginning of the second round wasn't nearly good enough to make up for not getting an earlier first round pick. Because I think what came back to you at the end of the second and the early third, if you had an early first round pick, were so much better overall. So you were pretty much the only bozo who was on the 15th pick. Like, we got our last priority and it was 15. So what did you see in that draft slot that made you love it so much? Like, and based on what we've seen so far, do you think you'll be targeting a late draft slot again this year?
Well, as far as this year, that slot is definitely unclear at this time. To tell you I had an idea, I don't have one yet. It's early December, and actually we're getting to the time where I'm going to slowly start pivoting and getting more intense, probably in the next week here. But 15 was given to me the first draft we did. I ended up getting it in Zach Waxman's Battle of the Podcast draft that we did. And I liked it enough where I thought I could always get it. And I liked the chance to take two guys in a row. And I thought that the advantage I was getting was that the two guys in certain rounds were more valuable than what I could have got if I broke myself up at like the 7th pick. And I also just stuck with it. I felt I really knew it inside and out. And the more you stick with the same draft slot, the more comfortable you can be with knowing that a player will still be there or won't be there later on. And I did 25, 30 drafts. So I think outside of 5 of those drafts, they were all in the 15th slot. And that's something I kind of fell into, frankly. Yeah, okay. I fell into it. So I kind of fell into it initially.
Familiarity is certainly one positive. The negative with that is if you get kind of into a situation where you keep drafting the same guys over and over again, and it's good when you hit, but boy, when you miss, that can, you're not just screwing over one team, you're screwing over a lot. And the way you draft from either corner, either the 1 slot or the 15 slot, and really, the couple picks around that, is very different from how you draft when you're towards the middle. Because when you're towards the middle, you're probably not going to miss out on an entire run. Like, unless a run starts immediately after you and literally goes like 8 or 9 guys in a row at a position, you're probably fine. Like, from the middle, I can wait. I can take value where it falls to me and still get what I need. When I'm drafting on an end, you have to take your guys. You have to get what you need at certain points in the draft because you don't know what's going to come back to you because there's 30 picks between your picks. So you have to really be comfortable with that. Get your guys strategy, which you have to employ either from the 1 or the 15 slot, where I normally like to be closer to the middle, not necessarily like right in the middle, but maybe in that 5 to 10 range is where personally I'm more comfortable. But so you liked that? You like just I'm going to get my guys and let's do this. I'm not going to screw around with worrying about what's going to possibly taking advantage of some falling values instead.
Initially, yeah, especially in the earlier rounds. In the later rounds, you can do more variety, and there will be a little bit more fluctuation. But for players that were there, Starling Marte was a guy I loved, and he was always there, and I always wanted him. And I'm glad I wanted him. I don't regret that.
It was a good year for that, for sure.
Yeah, but I wasn't able to win. Like you said, I placed in a lot of leagues, second, third, and third being my number for the year. I finished third like 10 times or something. So I think I'll have to review that process.
Okay.
Starting next week.
I think that's a good idea. But I mean, it's if you know where your strengths are, I think that's more important. If you know that's where you are more comfortable and more effective as a drafting that way, then I would say keep doing that from an end. Maybe this year you'll like the 1 pick instead of the 15 pick though. So once we get more ADP and once you get more transitioning from fantasy football to fantasy baseball, I'm sure you'll be able to kind of figure that out.
Yes, sir. I absolutely agree with that. And also, I thought the end of the first round was murky as fuck. So I thought it was a great place to be because there was a lot of There's a lot of difference of opinion on what people thought about you, Darvish and Giolito and Bauer and all these guys. And I liked certain guys, Freddie Freeman. There was always this hodgepodge of these same guys that other people were like, I don't want anything to do with that. I really dug them. So I also thought it was a good spot to be in because I thought that it was kind of undervalued towards the end of that round.
Okay. All right. Well, that's fair. We'll have to see where the guys land this year to see if that still makes sense for you. But
true.
Yeah, I also don't know where I'm going to be, but we have a lot of conversations with people on Twitter, and we kind of see, and Justin kind of talks about, people quibbling over, one ranking slot here or there, but we get very passionate people in this industry, some people who will die on that hill. So
yes,
Michael, what's a hill that you'll die on when it comes to fantasy baseball?
Nothing. Fucking nothing. I'm not anybody's hill. Nothing is that important to me. As long as the game is played fairly and everybody has a chance to win, I'm cool with it. I really can't think of something. I would like to see a universal DH in baseball, but as far as fantasy baseball, I just like playing. And I like all the formats. I'll diddle, dabble, and everything. I love diddling. It's fun.
All right, we might want to cut that part out.
No.
Wait, I like to play fantasy baseball. I love it.
I think what you meant to say was dabble, and then you said
dabble. Shit.
Back in the day, we would, at the beginning of the episode, I would actually take some audio from somewhere that I found funny and put it at the beginning of the episode just as like a little teaser, and that would have gone at the beginning of the episode.
Oh, for sure.
Oh, wow.
What Justin likes to take like the one terrible thing that I say and then like make that the title of the episode. It's like I'm talking about Jake and I'm like, yeah, sometimes friendship is challenging, and he literally named the episode that, and I'm like,
the title of this episode is I Like to Diddle Myself.
I'm glad you contribute in some way.
You can see why we're being taken very seriously in the community as a podcast with all of this. It's
yes.
It's
the venerable Friends with Fantasy Benefits podcast.
But hey, if we've learned anything, it's not to judge a book by its cover, because lurking underneath the laughs are sharks. So
hell yeah! Hey, never let them see you coming. It's all about misdirection.
So this next question, I have a feeling you're not going to have an answer for if you have not looked at the show notes, which it appears you haven't. I was going to ask you about some players. I know you haven't looked into ADP too much, but have you seen anything where you're like, man, I just, without looking into it further, but I'm kind of digging where this guy's going, or I really hate that guy going that earlier, along those lines. I was going to say, give me 3 players you love, 3 players you hate, but just give me whatever you got right now.
Give me what you got. Well, I think last time we were on the show, I heard some interesting ADP revelations that Justin was alluding to that had me like, whoa. It was kind of surprising. And I think Marcus Simeon right now, this is, again, depending on your ADP, is it November 1st? Is it 2 weeks ago?
I have him about ADP pick 30.
I'm concerned about it. I really am. But his track record the last couple of years looks legit. It would back some of that up, but it's just a whole new team, a whole new park. There's all the things we covered. I think that really worries me. That's one guy. And I also think another guy is Starling Marte right after him. I think he's a similar position too. And I was thinking about how much I love Starling at 45 last year. It was great. I loved it. But I don't want to have him as a top 30 pick because he kind of took off last year in a way he hadn't taken off on the base paths in a while. So I'm a little concerned that he can follow that up again. That would be another especially. Guy.
Yeah.
Right?
I will say I think it's very unlikely that he busts. Like, I think Marte is a pretty safe pick.
Okay.
Is he though? I mean, no.
Go ahead.
I mean,
go ahead.
Very few people love Starling Marte as much as I love Starling Marte, but he's had a PD suspension before.
Yes.
And he has been injured virtually every season of his career.
Let's go to the PD suspension. What is your concern there? That he's going to get suspended again? That some things were were not as good as they appeared to be because of that, or what?
Oh, no. Another suspension could happen. It's in the realm of possibilities because once you're a cheater, like that's always part of, the potential. I'm not saying he is now. I don't think there's any reason to think he is. But like that has to be in your mind somewhere. That being said, I don't mind him as a top 30 pick because I think the speed potential is so huge. It's worth it. But just go look at his, how many games he's played every season over the course of his career. He doesn't play full seasons.
He does miss games. It's never really been like a large chunk of the season. Like he's generally about 130 game kind of guy. Last year he was at
getting older.
But what was that?
And he's getting older. So it's
for sure. I agree.
That being said, like I said, I don't mind a top 30 price on him. But I can see where Michael's coming from here.
And I agree with Justin's sentiment earlier in the show. He said, maybe we should be paying for saves. And I've always been a not pay for saves guy. That's always been my thing. Scrounging the bottom like a bottom feeder, like a algae sucker in a fish tank, trying to keep the fish tank clean. I just suck it all up whenever I can get it. If it's Cesar Valdez for a couple weeks, so be it. But Giovanni Gallego suddenly being anointed as, he'll be the closer, and let's draft him high. I'm not a fan of that because it's like, whoa, where did this suddenly be locked in that he's the guy? That's it. It's a done deal. I know he's a solid pitcher, but to suddenly in early draft mode here be so clear cut, the people that I respect a lot in the biz are just like, this is it.
I've already argued with Sporer twice on this one.
He's like the poster boy for this right now, I think. Yeah.
Because he thinks we should be taking him above like Raciel Iglesias. I'm like, I don't know for sure that.
No. That's objectively wrong. There's no.
That's what I've told him. But it's I don't know that Gallegos is the guy. I hope he's the guy. He should be the guy. There is talk that they want to move Hicks and Alex Reyes back into the rotation, but we've heard that talk before. I mean, Carlos Martinez has bounced back and forth as well.
Gallegos has been the best pitcher on that team for years, and they've been reluctant to give him the role. Like, just because he closed
teams don't always want to put their best reliever as the closer. Sometimes they want to put them as the fireman.
Here's the secret as to how I've done much better than the average player in drafting saves. I understand that, as stupid as it is, previous closing experience matters a lot because it matters to the managers, not because it matters outside of anything else, but because to the managers, you get a closer tag, and that tag gives you a longer leash than other guys who don't have that. And you come in, and if you are even remotely close to being the best, one of the better pitchers in that pen, they're going to give it to you. So I always look to draft those guys. I do not take the guys who are the flavor of the week. Like they had a good end of the season. Like, Doval, I love the guy, but until the manager comes out and says, this is our guy, I'm not drafting him as such. That is how you lose a closer. I would much rather pay up to round 2 even to take a guy like Hader or Hendricks, who I know is the guy, than take Gallegos or Doval in the 3rd or 4th round. Like, we don't know that they're the closers. You can't just say it seems like he should be the guy because he was last year. I remember when Kennedy had the 1 year of closing, everybody thought it was going to be, him the next year in Kansas City. And I said, why wouldn't it be Rosenthal? Like, he was a previous closer who's throwing 100 miles an hour in camp, and he's pitching for his old manager, Mike Matheny, who he closed under when he was in St. Louis. So you have to look at all these factors, and the biggest factor for sure when it comes to closers is prior closing experience. So just a little secret for you guys: do not overpay for saves when it comes to guys who don't have that experience.
Very wise. Jordan Hicks. I know Alex Reyes is a mess, but there's a lot going on there. You got a new manager too, and it's a whole new ball game in St. Louis. I just wouldn't jump the gun on there. One more, and I love this guy. I love him. I talked about him all season. My Twitter timeline is filled with Dalton Varsho tweets. He has really jumped up in the market here around 105, top 110 it looks like, roughly right now, ADP. And boy, I know steals can be hard to come by, and we're always trying to get the guys who can steal bags. But can we really trust Varsho to be a guy who's going to play 130 or 120 at least next year as a catcher / outfielder? If there's a universal DH as well, maybe he does play 140 games or more. I think it's just a little too much to ask for, or a little too risky for me to jump up for a guy that I love. This is an example of don't let your emotions take over your fantasy decisions and your analysis. You got to be able to say, I love that player, but I don't love him in that situation.
I completely agree. It's really difficult to try. I mean, I loved him as a potential guy who could be looking at a lot more at bats coming up, but I don't know that he's an everyday player right now. And yeah, you're getting some steals from the catcher position. I would just rather take some guys that I know I'm getting that playing time more assuredly from. I mean, we've only seen a little bit from him, and he has struggled massively at times. My question is, when you struggle, are you going to keep your playing time? And he's not their full-time catcher. They can play him in the outfield, but I just don't know how much they're going to play him. I think if they get the DH, obviously that helps a lot, but I just don't know how much. And I would much rather take a guy like Will Smith, who I expect to play pretty much every day with a DH. But I do like where Curlin took him in our first pitch Arizona draft. I think he got him in the 7th round. I think that's maybe a little bit more aggressive than I'd like, but considering who else was on the board at that point, I don't think it was a terrible shot to take. Justin, what do you think?
I mean, from a real life baseball perspective, I don't love him much. I've mentioned this before. I've got a source from within the Diamondbacks organization that told me that he is dumb as rocks and that he has no future catching long term. I think that long term, he's not going to be a catcher, and we may actually see the beginning of that this year, where he does not have catcher eligibility after this season. That being said, I think he's going to play every day. Like, there's no reason for them not to. Like, he's too good for AAA, especially if he's not going to catch as much, and the organization starts transitioning him away from being a full-time or being, a regular catcher. There's no reason to think he can't play 130, 140 games in the outfield. And if he does that, that's a lot of plate appearances for a catcher, for a guy who's catcher eligible. So, will we want all those plate appearances? I don't know. Like you said, he struggled mightily at times last year, but the talent is there. Dude can hit. DH coming to the National League, a place to give him some extra time off from the field and stuff, keep him healthy, and if he is going to catch a little bit, keep the knees a little bit healthy. But I don't have a problem with the 7th round draft price necessarily, 7th, 8th round, something like that. I don't know. I don't tend to invest that much in the catcher unless I'm getting an elite one. So Varsha may be the exception because the amount of plate appearances he can rack up. But so far, he has not ended up on any of my teams.
Okay.
Yeah.
By the way, Matt Williams made a great point there in the comments about Teoscar Hernandez still being undervalued or underappreciated, not getting enough respect. And I think where's Teoscar at? He's like at top 40-ish, 35?
He is at 39, pretty much right in
39? Okay. I think that's pretty respected. I think that's...
Yeah, it seems pretty respected to me.
I feel like that's not bad. I mean, unless Matt is arguing that he should be a first-round talent, which I don't know if that's what he's referring to or not, but I do love the skills there and believe in the talent. We got Woody. Question for the panel: what 3 players are you avoiding? Well, we kind of just touched on a couple of them, but anyone else come to mind for you guys?
Justin, you're more locked in the draft. Go ahead.
Off the top of my head, or just kind of going through the ADP, I'm not going to pay a 2nd round price on Sal Perez. Like I understand people but I know he plays a lot, he plays every day and stuff, but that's a lot of plate appearances for a catcher. Like at some point, it's going to catch up to him, and he's not going to be able to stay healthy. And I just have a really hard time investing that high of a pick in a catcher. His ADP right now is like 32. That's insane. Luis Castillo, until I see him get traded off the Reds, I know people are like really buying back into the second half and stuff. I need him away from that defense. He puts the ball on the ground way too much to have that defense behind him and be successful, or as successful as we want. And I think it's Jake Hallisker actually mentioned this on your guys' High Stakes Heat podcast. I don't think we downgrade pitchers enough for not being like stellar whip guys. And I think that's true. I think whip is like the run scored of the pitching landscape in terms of the roto stats. Is people just kind of forget about it, or don't give as much credit.
I actually look at that more than ERA because I feel like whip is a better.
I agree, but I think
I think it's a better evaluation of talent than ERA is, which is more luck based.
And I agree with you, but I think people often overlook it. Just in general. So, Castillo's a guy that I've got much lower in my ranks than a lot of other people.
I like it.
Until he moves out of Great America Ballpark.
Yeah,
I'll be bumping him back up. But
Jake might have also said it, but I've definitely said it. I've never been a Luis Castillo supporter because of that whip, and it's not that I don't believe in the talent. It's that I can't take a guy who pitchers already only give you 4 categories, right? Because you can't get saves from your starter. So now if he's not even helping me in whip, now I'm only getting potentially 3 categories out of him. So for me, Luis Castillo just doesn't belong, never belonged in that kind of top to second tier starter group. I just can't take him knowing that I'm not going to get that whip support.
Yeah, I think Shane Bieber is a guy I'm actually concerned about right now.
Yep.
Oh, really?
Yep. Oh yeah, for sure.
Go ahead. Yeah, I mean, I just am concerned because I don't know where we are with him right now after what happened last year and everything that changed with the ball and the getting ring of the tack and all this stuff. I just can't. That's too high of a price to be paying, even if it is top 30, 28 ADP. Can't do it.
No, and I've talked about him. I don't remember if it was this podcast or High Stakes Heat, but this is obviously my boy, right? I mean, he's Cleveland Guardian, and I love him, but I can't believe I can't buy in at this price. Like, I don't even know if I would take him in the 5th round, to be honest with you. And Lucas was showing me his draft board or his auction board at First Pitch, and I saw Bieber, and I was like, oh, I don't like that. And he was like, I felt like I just kicked a puppy. Like, he was like, he really like. I know he listens to everything I say. Like I wanted to be like, man, I love this, but I was like, I can't get behind Bieber there. Like, the guy came back in late September for 3 innings. And again, we don't
know. He came back. Is just the fact he came back at all is huge.
Did come back, but that was that might be more concerning to me. I wish they had just shut him down. Period.
No. I want to see guys get back on the mound before the end of the season. My problem is the guys that are going behind him that shouldn't be going behind him.
This is my question for you every single year. Would you rather have a guy that you feel confident is healthy, or would you rather have a guy who's a slightly lesser talent overall, assuming they're both at 100%, but you feel much, much better about them from a health perspective? And I will always take the guy who's a slightly worse talent, but I feel much better about from a health perspective.
Giolito's 8 picks less. I'm taking Giolito all day.
Yeah, it's not even a question for me. Like,
I have Giolito, Alcantara, Sale, and Lance Lynn all ahead of Bieber, and all 4 going behind.
So I don't want any part of Sale either, but I mean, I would go much further than this. I would say Freddie Peralta, I would say Logan Webb, I would say Lance Lynn, I would say Barrios. I would, Musgrove. I'm putting Bieber down past pick 100 before I'm even considering him. So
that is really out. But
and it's also the sticky tack thing. Well, that's the thing, right? If you're going to be out, you shouldn't be afraid of moving someone too far down. I see this too often. Like, people are like, well, I don't trust his health, but I'm going to move him down 5 slots. Like, well, if you don't trust his health, how is moving him down from 5 to 10 really much of a move? Like, if I don't trust his health, I'm moving him down from 5 to 40. Like, why am I picking these guys ahead of him? Or why am I picking him ahead of these guys? Like, if you're out on his health, then you're out on his health, right? I mean, that's where we get in trouble, is we start telling ourselves, yeah, but now he's fallen significantly. Maybe now I take the shot. And I think that's where undisciplined drafting comes into play, and that's where people mess up.
All right. Well, back to I don't even know where we were in our run.
Well, I think that was a good productive conversation there. That was kind of so we were talking about guys that I was asking him about people that he likes and dislikes the value of, and then Woody kind of expanded that question for us. So we kind of touched on that a little bit more. So, Michael,
quality audience participation right there, Woody. Well done.
I love it. I want to know 2 things. I want to know what in this industry energizes you in a positive way. Like, what do you love? What gets you going in a positive way? And then on the other side, what kind of frustrates you? And what do you really feel like bothers you and really makes you want to like scream sometimes?
Well, what gets me jacked up is excitement, which sounds kind of simple, but what gets me even more excited for that is when people ask me to be involved in something. I just love that. It gets me going because I want to connect with people and I want to engage and learn and have an experience and see where it takes us. When people invite me on their pods, I love it. It's so exciting. I'm like, yeah, like I love doing this stuff. It's really, really always worth it. I've never gotten done with a pod that I guessed it on. I was like, gosh, that was fucking awful. What am I doing with my life? Never have I had that experience once. It really gets me going. And the more I get to do that, or people come on my show and are willing to talk with me, the better. So I love connecting with people in this biz. That definitely fires me up. And it may sound simple, but that's really where you get to have something new in your life, an experience that you didn't have prior. You don't know necessarily where we'll always go. And the more creative you are with it, the more fun it can be. And you never know what somebody might say or what you might learn. So I love that. What would chat my ass about this biz would probably be people get the hang-ups. There's a lot of hang-ups in this business that people just seem to get stuck on. There's a lot of them you could name, I guess. These arguments about petty things, I don't do that at all. I got no time for that. Ain't got no time for that at all. I don't do that. Twitter debates and wars, I never do that. I don't do social media spats. You could check my history. I just don't do that.
So you're not like John Fish rolling up with a bag of popcorn ready to watch guys duke it out on Twitter?
I can see the entertainment factor in it. I certainly can, because people, they have no awareness and they just dive into these debates about, is Mike Trout a first rounder anymore or not? And then it just takes off for an hour. It's just not the kind of thing that I want to debate in typed words. I would much rather talk about it in this format, in a verbal format, or in a video session. That sounds cool. But people who get hung up on stuff, people who are curmudgeons, I guess that bothers me too. That doesn't really help anyone, and you're only hurting yourself. So that seems like an archaic, old school baseball way that needs to go away. I don't want
the unwritten rules are absolutely one of the things that.
I love unwritten rules.
All that shit. All that. Yep. Well, you hit a home run off of me and you were happy about it, so now I have to hit you for it. Oh God,
so weak.
I love everything that Jose Fernandez stood for. Other than driving a boat under the influence of cocaine, but from a pitching standpoint, his whole thing was like, look, if you beat me, that's cool. I'm going to get you next time. But it was very playful, like, okay, you got me. It's cool. You can pimp it or whatever. I love that though. Like, that's how it should be. It shouldn't be like, oh, they're running up the score on us. It's like, you're goddamn professionals. You should be trying to score as many runs as possible every single inning. You don't know if someone's going to come back and beat you. You shouldn't be letting up. There shouldn't be like some 10-run rule or some shit. I mean, there's not, but people act like there is, because if you keep playing, they get insulted about it. Like, they get their panties in a bunch. Like, grow the fuck up. I mean, when it comes to baseball, that is by far the thing that annoys me the most. Like, people like Madison Bumgarner, I hate him. Like,
it's so immature.
So immature. I just can't stand that shit.
It's very simple-minded. It's like, hey, it's like you have no backbone. You don't understand who you are or what you're doing. And I have a problem with that. Yeah, unwritten rules suck.
Justin, I'm really curious to hear what's one thing that energizes you, and what's one thing that, as Michael puts it, chaps your ass.
Chapped ass.
Now, I have a feeling I know where you're going to go with this, because you love when people comment on your rankings. So we know that's the thing that energizes you in a positive way.
Absolutely. Love when people comment on my rankings.
Why is this guy ranked 21st instead of 20th, Justin? I need to know right now.
I love the community of the fantasy industry. And like, I know it sometimes gets a bad rap when people are going at each other and stuff. But in general, like 99% of the time, it is a bunch of really good men and women who are there to kind of connect and hang out with each other and help each other. And I would not be where I'm at today in this industry if not for the help of others.
That's true.
And so, I mean, to me, it's all about community. It's one of the things I love about TGFBI is that
and you pay it forward really well too, by the way.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But yeah, the community in general, just, I love it. I absolutely love it. One thing that angers me, are we talking about fantasy baseball in general?
Anything you want, anything that's on your mind.
And anything that's on my mind.
In either baseball or fantasy baseball.
Oh, okay. I was about to start airing some marital Here
we go. Sorry, Danielle.
I don't want to touch that one.
I mean,
mostly because your wife scares me.
I don't know if there's any, I mean, Major League Baseball in general angers me with them having their head in their asses.
Yes.
We're seeing this with the lockout. Like, this is a perfect time for them to be like ramping up, getting ready for a new season, and they've gone dark. Like they do everything they can to try to hurt their own game. Which is frustrating as fuck, because it's a
which
game
is already at times struggling, right? Like in popularity compared to other sports, and now we're supposed to care about arguments between millionaires and billionaires, and I mean,
that's infuriating. But that's about it.
You know what it is? I just thought of the one that about fantasy baseball and baseball in particular is this constant fuckery with the baseballs. That is driving me fucking bonkers. I loathe that. That is something I cannot stand, and it is flat out ruining the integrity of the game that has billions of dollars at stake, not just for their contracts and for their TV money, but people are gambling, assuming that they know what kind of baseball is being played with. And we don't know that ever anymore. We have no idea. I think that is a serious problem. It can't be understated at all.
Yep. No, I mean, I don't know if you saw my tweet. It was like a week ago, and I said, just choose a goddamn ball and stick with it. Like, I can't take this shit. Like, I'm constantly asking, which ball is it? Is it the juice ball? Is it the unjuiced ball? Do we have the humidor going? Is it both of these combined? Or
this has got to be something that's worked out during the CBA. Like it really,
God, I hope so.
Out. Yeah,
God, I hope so.
That's a problem, though. In which we all know baseball owns the Rawlings company that makes the baseballs, not the MLBPA. I don't know how much the MLBPA has access to the Rawlings factory, or if they even have like a person who monitors the situation there. Like, we don't even know that, do we?
No idea.
Nope. And
it's fucked up.
And none of this interests me. I only want to know for fantasy baseball purposes. I have no intellectual curiosity about what fucking ball we're using. Just tell me so I know how I need to draft. Like, that's it. It's really fucking irritating.
You can stick with one. I don't care which one it is. If it makes pitching more dominant, hitting more dominant, just stick with one.
Yeah, just stick with one. That's it.
Yep.
I just need to know the rules that I'm playing by.
Yeah, exactly.
Which you would think would be standard issue for every other league that has fantasy sports, but not baseball.
What's rule number 1 when you join any league, fantasy or otherwise?
Know your rules.
Know the rules. Know the league settings. And how are we supposed to know that when it's fucking random and we're not allowed to know? It's like they're hiding it like it's a goddamn state secret. But yeah, no, that is absolutely something that chaps my ass as well.
I'm surprised it's not a bigger deal, frankly. Like it should be an even bigger deal than it is.
I agree. It is to me. Michael, tell us about someone we should know that we don't know in the fantasy baseball world. Tell us someone who's maybe a little underappreciated.
Well, if you don't know, now you know. That's a rap song.
And by the way, this is one of my favorite questions that Michael asks his guests on his podcast.
Oh, yeah, I like to ask questions too. Steve Paulo, I mentioned. I love Steve. Although Steve, I don't know if he's going to be doing baseball still. He's big into fantasy football.
Give us someone for fantasy baseball purposes specifically.
Yes, fantasy baseball.
I really guys out there.
There's so many wonderful people. How am I supposed to decide? I am partial to the Shrimp Boat Captain.
Graham, yeah.
Graham Boatlock, as I call him. His name's not Graham Boatlock, for the record. It's Blake Lock, but I call him Boatlock. Graham is a really good fantasy baseball player. He's Canadian as well, which is cool. My girlfriend's Canadian. I like Canadians. You know, they like to have fun. I've had more fun with Canadians than I can ever remember. It's hard to believe that Canadians could be this fun, but they can be. And Graham is a great testament to that. He knows the game. He's got a killer sense of humor. He loves hip hop, and he's dry, but I like dry. That's fine. He's got a real dry wit, and he's on Zach Waxman's the Draft Champions podcast. Fairly regularly. He pops on there. He's kind of the guy that gave him more of an avenue, frankly.
Kind of a co-host most times. Yeah.
Yeah, and I love talking with him. He's a good guy, and I think that's somebody that more people should know about, because he also, if you looked at his record of where he's finished, he plays high stakes, somewhat high stakes. I don't know what his highest stake is, but he's definitely a big-time player, and he has finished very well. So that's a guy that I think more people should probably take the time out to follow, which you can do by following him at the Shrimp Boat Captain. Yeah, at Shrimp Boat Captain. Isn't that what it is?
Yeah, it's Captain, not Captain.
Yeah, Captain. That's what Captain. Yeah. And I'd also say a guy who's perpetually underappreciated, a really, really good analyst who always sticks to his opinions, Ryan Venancio. I think Ryan Venancio is an excellent follow.
About him. Yeah.
Love Ryan too.
Yeah, Ryan's great.
Those are both great calls. And both guys, I talked to Graham more, but I talked to both of them fairly extensively, and I like both of them a lot.
Ryan's a great drummer too. So
he is a really good drummer, and he tweets out some of his drumming as well.
Just got to 1,000 Twitter followers yesterday.
Oh, okay. And I believe
funny you mentioned that.
I think he's Ven Armbarn now. I think he changed his handle.
Oh no shit! We got a handle update. That's cool, Ryan. Yeah, he is. You're right. Ven _Armbarn, which is a great name that's related to a possible replacement of the Bullpen, which is apparently
not going to catch
Animalist. Is that a phrase? That's Animalist. By the way, speaking of followers, Dave, you're making a run at me. I'm wondering if you're going to overtake me here. We're in a dead heat. It's 22-25. It's very close. So
you guys
want to get Dave.
You get wait, Govier, you only have how many followers?
2,500. I just cracked it recently. I'm at 2,505, I think.
All right, we got to get Govier more Twitter followers.
Well, that's always welcome. But Dave's at 22 something, and I thought
we
that
don't
me and
care
him.
about. People shouldn't be following Dave. Like that's people should be following you.
What was I thinking? Yeah, no, you definitely don't follow Dave. I apologize.
Absolutely
for saying
follow MJ Govier. No, Justin's right.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, who do you love, Justin? Give us a name.
Eric Smolsky.
I agree with that one too. Yeah,
he's got less than 2,000 Twitter followers.
Petra's Corner is his pod, I believe.
Yeah, a fantastic podcast. He does a lot of really, really good work as well. Let's see.
His handle is Samsky NYC is his SAMSKI NYC is his handle.
Yep. Carlos Marcano, who writes.
Carlos, what a great guy and great fan too.
Yeah. He's got just over 2,000 Twitter followers at CA Marcano on Twitter. Some really, really good people right there.
Fine choices.
I gotta remember to do more follow Fridays type things.
Yeah.
I just always forget. I need to just put an alarm in my phone or something like that. And just because there's so many great people in the industry that people should know about.
That does work too. It's really weird. Like Eric Cross, one day he pumped me up one day, and all of a sudden all these people, they just start following you. It's pretty weird, but it's something that can serve good to those who deserve more followers. Like Carlos Marcano is definitely one of those guys, so I think it's a good call.
Absolutely, those are all.
It's an easy thing to do too. You don't have to do shit.
Right. Right. Yeah. All you have to do is put out a little love for people. So I love those guys. All right, Michael. One more question for you before we let you go. What are you currently writing and working? Where are you currently writing and working at? And what are your future plans coming up? Do you have anything in the works?
In the works. Well, I'm actually always looking for opportunities and looking to grow and expand and be a part of something greater and connect at a whole new level that's never been seen by humankind before. I don't even know what that means, but whatever that definition fits into, I'm down with that. But I do write football stuff at fantraxhq.com. You can read my Fab article, which I actually have to finish right now as soon as we wrap this up. And that's fun if you like fantasy football. But as far as baseball, I need to write a lot more. I like to write. It's cool. I just haven't really written a lot about baseball. And I own Rotofanatic, which I have actually never written beyond our Dark Horse Cy Young, Dark Horse MVP. We do a couple staff articles that I've written some stuff for, but I've never written my own article at a website that I have paid for. So it seems like I should have done that. Seems like a mistake. Could change that. I could change that maybe. I could ask someone and say, hey, I'm going to write something. But we always try to focus on very analytical pieces at Rotofanatic too. It's all about analytical focus. So it's not something that you can just throw out there. You got to take your time and really dive into the details. And I'm happy to do that. That's cool. But it's not something you could just kind of throw together either. As far as other than that, I'm open to opportunities. Like I said, I really think I can make something out of doing this stuff. I like to talk like this. I like to do the shows. I love doing these podcasts with you guys. I like doing my work. I like being on the air. I just feel comfortable doing this type of stuff. And I feel like I'm pretty good at it. I have something to offer. There's always different opinions and different types of tastes, and everybody has their own thing. But, I spent a lot of my life kind of fucking around and fucking up in my adulthood. A fear-based / loss of direction kind of all combines into this period of time that suddenly a decade passes and you're like, oh shit, and next thing you know, you're 40. So I'm really grateful to be where I am now in a sense of trying to make up for lost time, but I'm also not trying to force anything. I'm still being patient enough that I don't just jump into any old opportunity just because it's an opportunity. You got to work with people that you really connect with. And what does that mean to connect with someone? It means that they kind of understand your point of view. They know when you're in a good mood, when you're in a bad mood. And even if you're in either one of those moods, they can still kind of communicate with you and figure out what needs to be done. And they are somebody that you have a lot of laughs with. And Justin and Dave are two examples of that. They're guys that are, there's nothing I can think of that I couldn't talk with either one of them. There really isn't. I can't think of anything like that. Like, oh, that's off topic. I will never bring that up. I think that's a mark. I think having no barriers or restrictions in your conversation with someone, or you feel comfortable enough to talk about just about anything, even if you don't want to talk about anything in particular, I think that's the mark of a really quality relationship that you have with someone. And you want to surround yourself with more people like that. I think that's important. And that's what I've learned since I've been in this biz for about 1.5 years, almost 2 years now. It'll be 2 years next month. I started doing the Palazzo podcast, so time's flying by.
Congratulations.
And yeah, it's cool. I love doing that show with Deary, and we started doing it as a college football pod, and we just kind of switched into baseball because we love baseball more. And now, probably if we stuck with college football the way that Michigan's playing so well, we'd probably get all these followers. We'd be a huge hit because Michigan's blowing up, and it has a massive, massive following, which is very unhealthy because it's a bloated corpse of a university at times that is definitely not worthy of all the recognition that it gets. And I'm saying that as an alum. I get it. But they're actually, what they've done recently is actually worthy of their accomplishments. They've been really, really fun team to root for this year. So I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at and what I'm thinking about. And some of my advice to people, you want to get into this business, you think, hey, it's 2022 because we're coming up to that time of year where people start thinking like, hey, it's my turn to try this fantasy baseball thing, right?
Hey, after we discussed last week, after you had to exit the show, Dave and I discussed, I told people, like, every year someone's left out of TGFBI and they're like, oh, I can't, well, how can I get in? Like, if you want to get in and you're not in the industry right now, like, start a website, start a podcast, start
Woody,
a blog,
Woody, this is for you, buddy. This is for you, Woody. Start that website.
You want to get and someone reached out to me, through DM on Twitter and said, "Hey, listen, I'm going to write this article. Would that get me in?" And I said, "Yeah, it'll get you in." And they're going to be in TGFBI this year. So make sure if you've ever thought about it, you want to get in TGFBI. Now it's time, right?
Yeah, Richard Sands reached out to me recently, and he's like
was on it, was in TGFBI. Like, anybody can write something, it's not hard to do, something.
Yeah, website, Richard reached out to me the other day, and he's like, hey,
Richard Sands?
I really want to play. Yeah, Richard Sands, who won the Palazzo Invitational overall this last year.
That's right.
And which is on NFBC. We're going to be doing that again. Not sure how or why, when, how, but we will be doing it. I got to talk to Derek this week. But Richard said, hey, can I write an article? You think I'll get into TGFBI? I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure. But you should, reach out to Justin and just verify.
Yeah, that's who reached out to me. And I told, you write the article, you're in,
Perfect.
That's fun.
That easy.
Well, I love it, boys. Yeah. Great positive message to end on. Michael, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting me take the reins today.
Never happened again.
Yeah, no, thank you for letting me do all the work. I so appreciate it. But
suck it up now, because you're never ever going to be in this position again.
Okay, if he wants to write the show notes, I'm good with that. He can do that. He's like, yeah, no.
You can reach Michael on Twitter at MJ Govier. You can reach Dave on Twitter at RunDMCD. Don't forget the D. You can reach me on Twitter at Justin Mason FWFB or Fantasy Benefits at Fantasy Benefits. That is going to wrap us up for this episode. And as always, we take it out with
fun times in Cleveland again. Still Cleveland. Come on down to Cleveland town, everyone. Under construction since 1868. See our river that catches on fire. It's so polluted that all our fish have AIDS. We see the sun almost 3 times a year. This guy has at least 2 DUIs. The flats look like a Scooby-Doo ghost town. Don't slow down in East Cleveland or you'll die. Our economy's based on LeBron James. Buy a house for the price of a VCR. Our main export is crippling depression. We're so retarded that we think this is art. It could be worse though, at least we're not